Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefundraiser.com, that says donate here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Multiverse FunRaiser 2023, day number 3. We are benefiting the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health, and welcome in if you're just joining us. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like and share this video with all of your closest friends, because they're going to like the way they look after watching or listening to this incredible event known as the Multiverse FunRaiser. We guarantee it. I am your host for this particular panel. My name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. We're going to be talking about B-list boosters, more specifically, comic book characters who are not as popular as your typical Supermans, your Batmans, your Wonder Womans, your Black Widows, Incredible Hulks, the Fantastic Four, etc., 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 etc. So with that being said, let's introduce our panelists here who are going to be joining us for these festivities. Carlin is here. Carlin, welcome in. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. CPA
Fantastic.
sci-fi guy right here.
That's right. It's great, isn't it? Also joining us is Mr. Cliff. Cliff, good to see you, good sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I enjoy being had.
I think I understood that reference. But thank you so much for being here. Do greatly appreciate it. Also joining us is Professor of Comicsology 101 and an esteemed gentleman known as Clyde. Clyde, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, got the C Squad here.
Really?
Yeah, we got Carlin and Cliff and Clyde right now. So C Squad.
I didn't notice it before, but now I see what you did there.
Yeah, Elder Statesman of Geekery, and just happy to. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also joining us is someone who hopefully has gone to the good side of the Force, and the Force has awakened with her technical snafus. Lauren is here. Lauren, can you hear and see us?
I can hear and see you. Can you hear and see me?
Yes!
Yes!
Yay! Yes! I don't know what's wrong with my actual good mic, but headphone mic it is.
Oh my goodness, she exists. It's actually real. We're so happy that you're here and that the Force has awakened in your life and in your technical studio side of things. I'm just going to point that out. But hey, it happens. Phoenix Sisters Cosplay says, the C Squad discussing the B-list. Boy, if that's not a great comment to wake me up this afternoon, I don't know what is. Carl Witzman says, woohoo, Carl, good to see you. Here's your pop culture reference of the 90s, if anyone catches my drift. Good to see you all. Thank you all for being here. By the way, if you have any thoughts on these characters, anything we may have missed, something we may need to look up at some point or another, please feel free to let us know in the chat, in the comments. We would love to hear from you as we go throughout the course of the Multiverse FunRaiser 2023. So with that being said, I'm going to turn things over to our first panelist and talk to us about a character that is considered to be on the B list, but should deserve what is known as a second look. Carlin, what is the first character you wish to share with us today?
Man, the first one I want to talk about is Iron Man issue number 55. And if we can get that image pulled up, Iron Man was a second string tier selling book back in the 60s and early 70s. And in issue 55 was the first appearance of Thanos. And even then, I mean, Thanos was a Jim Starlin creation. He was kind of ripping off from the New Gods from DC, and kind of borrowed heavily on the dark side mythos to make Thanos. There we are. And he floated around until, pretty much the Infinity Gauntlet crisis as a background character. And look at them now. Both Iron Man and Thanos are just blockbuster characters for Marvel. And in the 1960s, because this book right here is 68, they were clearly B-list. I mean, the main reason Iron Man was part of the Avengers was, Iron Man's basically a technology knight, but he was rich, he could afford to fund it, and he had the brains. So he was the science side. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on where those two characters started and where they are now.
My goodness, that is amazing history, going all the way back to that with a snap of my non-existent Infinity Gauntlet. Sorry, I couldn't help but bring it up. But let's see here. Cliff, any thoughts on this character?
He's Thanos. Even my brother-in-law, who thought that the yellow Infinity Gem was in the Green Lantern movie, knows who Thanos is. So, yeah, he came a long way from having a helicopter with his name on it.
Oh my, I was not aware of this.
Yep.
Interesting stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us, Cliff. Clyde, any thoughts on the one they call Thanos? Even though he may not be, at one point he may not have been as popular as he was, but nowadays everyone knows who Thanos is.
Yeah, his battles with Captain Marvel, Marvel from Marvel Comics got my attention first in the 70s for him. They were a great adversary. He was a good villain for that run. And then, in the way that they've done with Guardians and some of the other characters, they transferred him to the screen quite well. Of course, he was a major character by then, a bigger influence because of the Infinity Gauntlet saga. But from fairly humble beginnings, and being like Darkseid and like some of the New Gods characters, that was never my cuppa. But as a cosmic villain, oh yeah, he was good.
Phoenix Sisters cosplay had exactly what I wanted to bring up, which is I'm kind of disappointed that MCU Thanos wasn't horny for the literal incarnation of death.
Whoa.
But, I like what we got. Also, just real quick, because I saw this yesterday and it's been on my mind since, have any of y'all seen, it's a TikTok edit of Tico Salamanca from Breaking Bad. It's when Thanos tries to snap and nothing happens, and he looks, and Tico Salamanca is crushing them up and snorting them.
I have not seen that. But
Okay, it's worth looking up. It is worth looking up. Just look Tico Salamanca, Thanos.
Oh my goodness, this is a good way to start the day. One thing that was brought up earlier, the Phoenix Sisters cosplay brought up, the motivation that Thanos had in the comics was kind of funny. He was literally courting death at one point. Yeah.
And the line that they use in the movie of, to challenge them is to court death. I'm like, you're talking to the wrong guy, because in the comic book background, that's all he needs.
I kind of was screaming at the theater at that point.
Yeah, if you knew the background for Thanos, that one line said so much.
Yeah.
Because, you can't go into a Marvel movie and go, oh, this guy is courting death. He's going to wipe out half the universe.
Well, if there's one thing for sure about this presentation is that this panel is inevitable. So with that being said, thank you for sharing that with us, Carlin. Good Lord, I'm losing my mind already. So with that being said, I want to turn things over to our next panelist, Cliff. Who is the first character you'd like to present to us today, Cliff? What do you got?
The first one I'm going to go with is probably the one I might end up being a little long-winded about, is The Shade from DC Comics. Yes. I, like most comic nerds, I try not to make blatant statements about my favorite character or anything, because, it changes every other day for most of us. But The Shade's probably my favorite villain, if you can consider him a villain. He started off in the Golden Age, in the 1940s in Flash comics. And he was a one-note gimmick villain, like most of them were back then. He was, this guy's name's The Shade. He does stuff with darkness. And that was it. And he didn't show up again until the Silver Age, where he was in the famous Flash of Two Worlds story, where it introduced the Earth 1 Barry Allen Flash to the Earth 2 Jay Garrick Flash. And then he was just, the mustache twirling tie girl to the railroad track villain with his gimmick cane. And that was it. And that was his status quo through all of the Silver Age and the Bronze Age, all the way up until 0 Hour, the DC Comics event that was supposed to fix Crisis on Infinite Earths. And from there, James Robinson started his Starman comic, and everything about the Shade changed in a good way. And it also changed in the way that I wish more comic creators would actually revamp or reboot a character. James Robinson didn't throw out any of the history of his character. He didn't try and pretend it didn't happen. He just rolled with it, but changed the character to match what he wanted. And the Shade became this unbelievably interesting, great character. He, instead of being this mustache twirling villain, he became more of a Charles Dickens inspired English gentleman who was immortal and had been around since the 1800s and was actually friends with Charles Dickens. And you found out he wasn't a villain to be bad or any of that. He was a villain because he was bored. And he saw all these costume characters showing up and thought it would be fun and relieve his immortal boredom by fighting with them. And he became such an interesting character. And if you really, really read in Starman, you could almost make an argument he's the main character. A lot of it's through his perspective. He is in almost every issue. If he's not in an issue, an excerpt from his journal is. And you can almost make the argument you do the hero's journey, because at the end of Starman, when Jack Knight leaves, excuse me, he becomes the protector of Opal City. And through the entire series, he's infinitely self-aware of the absurdity of a lot of the things that we enjoy about superhero comics. And in one issue, he talks about how before he would fight the Flash, he would have to practice his pithy one-liners in the mirror where he wouldn't crack up laughing when he said them. And then later on, this wasn't an image I had available, and I'm trying to find the issue number. In one of the showcase stories from the 90s, when they were gearing up for the company event, Underworld Unleashed, which was basically where all the heroes, all the villains made deals with the devil. The version of Mephisto in the DC universe is a character called Neron, and he was giving deals for your soul to all these villains. And he came to the Shade and was like, I can give you, he shows up and says, I am power. And the Shade is like, well, of course you are. And he offers the deal, and the Shade turns him down. And, it's like they start an argument, and the Shade just simply says, what can you offer me I don't already have? Are you going to make my shadow blacker? I'm already immortal. You have nothing I want. Please go away. And that, in a nutshell, was the Shade. He was his own character and did his own thing. And I really wish someone, before they cancel it at Warner Brothers Discovery, films panel for panel the entire Starman story and put it on TV, HBO Max, I don't care what, because it would be what gave DC the edge over the Marvel Comics universe of films and stuff, because it is so well written, and the Shade is probably the best character in the book. And I could go on for the next hour, but I'm going to stop there.
No worries, and thank you for sharing that with us. By the way, Kristen Marie chimes in. She says, it was nice to see the Shade featured on the hit TV series Stargirl at one point.
Yes.
Yeah, and also Chris Jowers chimes in. He says, Cliff Riley is a saint. # Shade rules.
Thank you, my second husband. I love you too.
G. Willikers and what is it? Mondo Danico says BD, was it BFDI in space? Okay. Not quite sure where you're going with that, but okay. No worries. What was it? And Kristen Marie says Lauren's mic is so tired of yesterday's awesome panel. That's why she's having all these tentacle snafus. But she's back now, so we'll let her stick around and here at the Big Kids, here at the Burger King Kids Club. # not sponsor. Anyone remember those commercials when I was a kid? Yeah, I do.
Oh God, yes.
Thank you. Yes. See, we're getting somewhere, right? We're getting somewhere. But Cliff, that was wonderful. Let's see here. Clyde, do you have any thoughts on this character, the Shade?
There's a reason why when I finally decided to be a DC villain for cosplay, I picked him this year. And so I have my Richard Sharp business cards, just like I did the version from the TV show Stargirl because people were more familiar with that version of him. Since the Starman's comic book series, it's been a while. So I kind of went with that look. Yeah, everything that Cliff said, ditto, because he actually does an anti-hero kind of turn in that book. And we find out very quickly that he's not a good guy, but if you're under his protection, woe to those who would hurt, like Jay Garrick and his wife. Oh, yeah, he won't pull a punch. He comes from a time when things were much dicier. Morals were a bit looser as far as raining violence down upon somebody that deserved it. And that character he's a great character.
Clyde, did you dress up as the Shade at Superman Celebration one year?
No, I never have got to take it there, just for free comic book day.
Okay. I have a picture of someone as the Shade, and it looks an awful lot like you. I was just wondering.
No. Who knows? Maybe there are two Clydes out there that we don't know of. Would that be? Could be Shade. Anyway, Lauren, any thoughts on this one?
It helps if I click the correct button. So first of all, the whole I'm a bad nerd. I haven't read Starman yet. It's been on my list forever, and that just kind of moved it up because I love me an interesting, nuanced villain. The whole being evil because you're bored really reminds me of, spoilers for an, 5-year-old movie, Anne Hathaway in Ocean's 8, where she joins the heist because she was bored and just wants friends. As you do. And no, I was familiar with the name The Shade, didn't really know much. That very definitely piqued my interest.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to get over my LCS, which stands for local comic shop. And by the way, for those of you who may be wondering, you should be supporting your local comic shops when you get the opportunity. I'm just going to point that out. 100% true. Before I pass things on to our next panelist, introduce our next character, Carlin. Any final thoughts on the Shade?
Well, I'm just gonna have to come right after Cliff. Is that I was actually late to the Starman run, and I was reading in a trade paperback, and there's one trade that they apparently had publishing disputes on, and I'm missing it, so the hunt's on to find it. But yes, that character was a complete reformat. It's wonderful to see them take this character in the Stargirl show. Loving it.
Rock on, man. Good stuff. This has been a good panel so far. We've only reached the tip of the iceberg. Anyway, good thing for us, there's no iceberg right ahead. That movie turns 25. Anyway, Clyde, Professor of Comicsology 101, the Elder Statesman, I believe is one of your nicknames. You have like 50 nicknames on the interwebs. I don't even know where to start. But Clyde, do me a favor. What is your first character you would like to introduce us to on this B-List Boosters panel for 2023? What do you got?
I got a character that I liked as a kid. So that puts it into the 60s and 70s. And, this is when Stan Lee was doing what he did best. He was expanding the comic book marketplace and adding new readers to the ranks. And he'd had a lot of success courting college students who were quoting, the observations of the Silver Surfer as he was traveling through the cosmos, and philosophy students were tuning into comic books, And so as the 70s dawned, Stan was trying to figure out, what can I do next? What would be a big thing to do? And he decided, the women's liberation movement in the early 70s was very, they were doing protests and marches. And so he decided that they would launch 3 female characters in their own titles. And that's Shanna the She-Devil. And they also did Night Nurse and Beware the Claws of the Cat. If you've got the image there, whoop. Now, okay, there we go. Beware the Claws of the Cat, which I love the cover. Marie Severin's art, one of the best colorists and one of the best artists that Marvel came out with. And as soon as I saw her artwork, I started picking up this title because I became a fan with Not Brand X. She could do humor. She could do adventure. She was awesomely talented. And the cover got me. This issue hooked me. And this was their attempt to make a superhero female. And what I like about it is she was not, this was before there were female Hulks and Spider Women. This was not some residual from a male character. This was an original character that was on her own. And I think they got I think they had some resistance. Wally Wood did the inks for this issue. And when he turned them in, he had made the cat nude in every picture. And so they had to go back and redo, Marie Severin had to go back and redo his art. And later on, people said, well, that was pandering. It was a women's thing. I reread them over the years, and especially the first issue. It's the best of the 4 issues that came out. I don't buy that. It's really good storytelling from a female character's point of view. College student Greer Grant is majoring in science, and she's got plans for a career in the scientific research fields. And then she meets Bill Nelson. They are in Chicago. He's a Chicago rookie cop, and despite her ambitions, she settles down with him, and she takes up the role of a traditional housewife because he's a very traditional kind of guy. But he's killed during a holdup attempt, and she tumbles down into loss and grief, and she tries to get a job, tries to start a career, and everybody says you don't have enough schooling because you quit college. So she goes back. She runs into an old professor of hers named Joanne Tumolo, and Joanne is conducting some research, and she needs a lab assistant. So then we find the villain of the piece, Malcolm Donalbain. So yes, it's Mal Donalbain, bad Donald bad. He is the financier for Dr. Tumolo's experiments, and he has this weird idea that he's going to make a legion of subservient female Amazon type warriors with the research that Dr. Tumolo is doing on enhanced physiques and also psychic power, and make like he's going to just insert them in communities with rich clientele, like a Vic Tanny Assassins Guild, to take people for their money, plunder their businesses by getting on the good side of them. It's a really weird 70s kind of idea, and Dr. Tumolo, of course, doesn't know any of this yet, but she does know that this guy is really pushing. He wants tests done. This is where Ramona Fraden was tagged to do issue number 5. And she didn't get a chance to because they stopped at number 4. But she is another female artist, just like Marie Severin, that I would love to have seen more of her work. Now, the cat, she goes through the bad guys in the first issue. It's very well paced. She ends up, she is canceled after 4 issues. But then the House of Never Forget and Try to Reuse an Idea comes back a few years later. 2 years later, they have Tigra the Werewoman. She's introduced in Creatures number 1, I think. That's the other cover. And with Werewolf by Night, that's Greer Nelson, who becomes that character. There you go. Giant-sized creatures, number 1. And then 2 years later, they spin her off into becoming Hellcat, which is a Patsy Walker character. If you've known, the Defenders and stuff, she became an Avenger and a Defender. She has a different power set, but they tried to redo her. So the character concept has continued on. It's just different. but she has her powers are slightly superhuman strength, extreme superhuman dexterity and agility and reflexes and speed, and psychic empathic ability. She can sense weakness and injuries and emotions in other humans and animals. She has a limited precognitive psychic ability that they called, it's kind of an awkward term now, women's intuition, but she could see things coming, kind of like a spider sense. And her gloves and boots were steel-tipped claws on both, but now she could extend the claws on her glove and it would be a hook, and it was a decel line, and so she could do acrobatic moves and building to building hopping that way. The issues that went on, though, they changed the creative team constantly. They changed the artist. They didn't let Marie Severin continue to do the art, and so and no great villains came out. They were like second tier already. Bad guys like the Owl from Daredevil, who was never a top of the line villain. So she never really got a chance, except for those lesser versions of her. And I thought she had everything it would require to be a founding member of things like the Defenders that we saw done on television, the street level heroes. Now here's my pitch. I want Marvel to give us a 4-issue miniseries of this alternate reality Greer Nelson, where she lives, she works, she expands from where she was, learns to use her powers. Each book could cover different phases of her superhero career in a multiverse setting. We're in this is the multiverse age of Marvel Comics. So show us that, where she didn't become Tigress. She just stayed as the Cat. And let a team of female artists and writers pitch the ideas for it and produce it, just the way they started to do originally.
My goodness gracious. And I thought Michelle Pfeiffer uttering the words, "I'm Catwoman, hear me roar," was a good marketing tool, but this one takes the cake, guys. No, seriously. I mean, in the words of Futurama, just shut up and take my money. Because I want to read this today, here, now. I love that cover. I think some of these covers are just flip-tastic, but goodness gracious. Great stuff here, Clyde. Carlin, anything you wish to add to these proceedings?
There we are. Had to get that mute button off. Yeah, Clyde, I never knew the full backstory on that character, and it's right out of the Stepford Wives. I mean, like Ira Nevin's 1972 book, Stepford Wives. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious though, Lauren, any thoughts on the cat?
Okay, so first of all, I love me a cat-themed character. I actually didn't know that about the origin. I mean, I like Tigra well enough in the comics and on TV. Well, not TV, but the animated stuff. That counts. But I never, for some reason, I just never looked too hard into her origins. And the second I saw the costume, I was like, that looks like Hellcat's costume, but it's different. And this explains why. I do. So I've been doing this thing lately where I've been going back and watching the original series of Star Trek because I'd never actually seen it. I was the only nerd in my immediate family, so I just kind of came to things as people introduced them to me, and I didn't have any big Trekkies in my life until, like, high school. But one of the things that I kind of love is going back to that era, and it's so of its era, and it's that thing where it's trying to be progressive, but looking at it from, all these years down the line, it's like, oh, this is still not great, but you tried. It's that whole little confused but got the spirit. And it kind of reminds me of that. It's the whole, we're going to take that stereotype, the traditional housewife, and, oh, no, she's actually fighting crime as an animal-themed superhero. And I dig it. I need to educate myself and go back and read those kind of the same way that I am watching Star Trek now. Not to be like, oh, this was so bad. It's just like, everything, like the art style was so of its time and the dialogue is so of its time, and I find that absolutely kind of fascinating, the very generational. It's always that generation's view of what is, progressive, futuristic, whatever. So, yeah, I need to get my hands on at least. I don't know if they have that on like digital comics, but I need to find that.
They
Yeah,
said that
absolutely.
it was included with a
Yeah.
Tigra TPB at one point. All those
Ooh,
issues.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta look for that. Hold on, I'm adding.
Yeah. She's writing this one down, in other words. That's what she's doing. But Eli Cash had a comment here. It was here and then it just vanished. Where did that Eli Cash go? Where is he? There it is. Oop, silly me. He says, little confused, but still have the spirit. Story of my life. Yeah. A little confused, but I don't know. Still got spirit somewhere. Who knows, right? Anyway, Cliff, any final thoughts on the cat?
Yeah, I was more of a fan of her in the Creature on the Loose Marvel Chillers books because I'm not a big Marvel person, but I like their horror books. I do like the fact that when they decided to recycle her old costume, they recycled an old character to put it in because Patsy Walker was a romance comic book character before. So I was like, well, might as well recycle the character too. But yeah, and I like Greer Nelson in the Avengers, and that weird love triangle between her and Star Fox and the rest of the Marvel universe they always did was always just a good laugh to have.
I found the trade paperback, by the way. It is Tigra, the Complete Collection, published in 2019.
All right, fun facts. I'm digging it. More things to add to your library for those of you who may be wondering, just out of curiosity. And once again, I want to remind you that you are enjoying what is known as the Multiverse FunRaiser 2023. This is the start of day number 3. We're talking about B-list boosters, which are comic book characters that are not as popular as some of the others, whether it be the Supermans, the Wonder Womans, the Hulks, the Fantastic Fours, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm joined by an incredible group of people, such as we got Cliff, we got Carlin, we got Clyde, we got Lauren, and make sure you like and share this video with all of your closest friends. We are doing this to benefit the John Ritter Foundation for aortic health. If you wish to make a donation, link is located within the description of this video. It's also currently scrolling across the bottom of your screen. And with that being said, I want to turn things over to our next panelist because we were talking about the cat moments ago, but now that she's going back and watching Star Trek TOS, Space, the Final Frontier, and she's wearing a Star Wars shirt, which means you can like 2 or 3 more fandoms and still get along, people. It's very much possible, and it should be the reality, even though some people may not think so. Lauren, what's the first character you want to introduce us to on this fine B-List Boosters 2023 panel?
Okay, little bit of an introduction here. I started reading, like really reading comics because, again, I was only really introduced to stuff as people in my life were, and I didn't really have any huge comic book friends until college. So I started reading the Ultimate X-Men comics back in the day, and then right around the time that was all starting to wrap up, I had just started a job in a genetics lab, and one of my coworkers, Frank, what up, introduced me. He was like, "Oh, you like comics? Let me introduce you to so many." And one of the ones he introduced me to was the new X-Men Academy X series, which just grabbed me. I loved it so much. There was a character who was originally a background character in that, who ended up with her own arc towards the end of it. Was right after, they blew up Xavier School again. So this character is Pixie, Megan Gwynn. Let's see if we can. There we go. So her whole thing is she looks like a fairy. Her original appearances, she had these butterfly wings. Just as a biology nerd, it always annoyed me because it's like those wings aren't going to carry anyone. But it's a comic, whatever, And the comic where she really grabbed me was the one, I am blanking on the name now, but magic sucks a bunch of the students into limbo, and she ends up making a deal with Pixie of like, okay, we'll rescue your friends, but you got to give me part of your soul. Okay, yes, this is what it's from. It was drawn by Scotty Young. It's great. Part of her powers was hallucinogenic dust. You might have seen the Wolverine chasing after a unicorn thing, the whole screaming like, effing unicorns. She accidentally dusted him. And it's just this, this adorable, cute character who ends up getting part of her soul sucked out to save her friends. And then later on, there's another solo little 4 arc thing of hers where we get more backstory, where it turns out that her mother is actually a fairy, like legit one of the Fae folk. And that's a whole thing. There's demons, yada, yada, yada. She has magic powers. She's learning like teleportation, all this stuff. She's kind of been on and off in, backgrounds, teleporting people, showing up and talking with people since then. She's never really had the spotlight as much as she had. The first arc, actually, of one of the like new renumbered X-Men ones was her basically getting jumped in a hate crime and getting her courage back. For whatever reason, Pixie just grabbed my attention. The aesthetics, the just whatever. And Kelly, I'm going to out you. I actually met Kelly through a journal-based role-playing group where one of the characters that I played was Pixie. So kind of as if I didn't like the character enough, that sort of, oh, this was a thing in my life at this time when I met just so many of my really good friends that I've made online, has kind of, cemented all that. She had a brief appearance in Wolverine and the X-Men where she did not have a Welsh accent. I was disappointed. And she made an appearance in, you might remember, there was this X-Men video game where she was actually like in the commercial, and it turned out I did not buy the game because it turned out that right after she shows up, a helicopter falls on her and kills her. It's Dr. Romano and ER, what the hell? And so I didn't buy it. And then it turns out that that company had all sorts, there was like a lawsuit, and all copies of that game were recalled. But yeah, she's a cute character, fun character. Kind of that whole, oh, you're an adolescent and life is changing and you're trying to stay positive through all this horrible stuff that's happening. Like, half of your friends got blown up in another hate crime. You got hate crimed. Your soul is missing. You're on a team with a person who stole your soul. It's a whole thing. I really like those characters that just try to keep pushing through the crap. So, yes, that is Pixie.
Oh. And I thought Tinkerbell's jealousy of the relationship between Wendy and Peter Pan was a problem. We haven't seen anything yet. Take a look at this one. No, I'm serious, but no, that's really good stuff with that character. Interesting stuff. Elder Statesman Clyde, any thoughts on the one they known as Pixie?
It's not a character that I'm familiar with, but there's a lot of gaps in my X-Men history, especially recent, more recent X-Men stuff. But as a person that enjoyed many hours of online playing Changeling the Dreaming and the Fae Folk and stuff, I wrote down all that you said on the character's name and background so that I can find it, because I'm going to be looking her up.
Well, at least one of us is doing their homework, because I don't even have a sheet of paper or a pen in front of me. But that being said, Cliff, any thoughts on the one known as Pixie?
She sounds interesting. I'm not the biggest X-Men person. The Grant Morrison in the 1990s kind of killed my love for the X-Men. But yeah, the thing I always liked about the X-Men is they always gave you quirky characters like that. They just forgot about them over the years, and it all became about the main 7 ones all over and over again. But yeah, she sounds interesting, and sell your soul. That's always a good time.
Yeah, just ask Sam and Dean, Route 6666666, the highway deal, whatever it was. Anyone remember that episode? I do. Carlin, any thoughts on Pixie?
It's a character I'm not really familiar with, but getting crushed by a helicopter? Wow.
She can teleport. Come on.
Well, and also, I mean, that kind of brings up a little side comment as to certain characters. I mean, yeah, it's like you look at the Wasp and you're like, I could just blow her away.
You know.
Yeah, I really hate that. It's like you think of that, and then when they do it, like I said, I was reading the Ultimate comics at the time, and I stopped reading them because of Ultimatum. It was so dumb. But famously, in the first arc of the Ultimates, Hank Pym, who they took like everybody's negative traits and magnified them a billion times, he actually attacked Wasp with ant spray. And it's just like, okay, yeah, you could do that, but it's so horrible. Come on.
Well, at one point he was a pretty horrible guy.
Gee whiz. My goodness. The things that happen to these characters in certain iterations of it, or certain versions of the comics, I should say, because gee willikers. That being said, we go from Pixie and cats and dogs and cats with living together with mass hysteria. But Carlin, I gotta ask you, what's the next character you want to present to us here, Carlin?
You're muted. Sorry.
Yeah, you're muted, Professor Carlin. Where are you? There you are.
Sorry,
You're
man.
live.
Hey,
That's all right. Things happen. What's the next character you got for us? What's the next character you got for us for bids today on The Price is Right?
Let's bring up the image of Dial H for Hero, because that's actually a twofer. So Robbie is the little kid in the middle, and this is 1966, which was the year I was born. So okay, so Robbie has this dial. And later in time, Mark Waid picks the same Dial H for Hero and does a miniseries and determines that the dial is actually interlac. But every time you spin the dial, it gives you a random superpower. Well, that character's floated around through various times. It's had miniseries, but it's never really had a stable long-term book. But if you'll notice to the left-hand side, there's Plastic Man. That's actually not Plastic Man as we know him today. Robbie in this episode dials it and it gives him the powers of Plastic Man. But it turns out Plastic Man actually goes back to the 1940s to police comics. And ironically, Plastic Man, much like the Joker, got his abilities because he got chemically doused. And then so you've got this secondary character comic, Dial H, and you're spinning off individual characters as they dial up powers. And this issue here really kind of brought Plastic Man out of the 1940s and the police pulps into what we consider the modern universe of Marvel. And ultimately you wind up with him being on TV as a Flash character. But he really kind of came back to light during the Obsidian storyline of the JLA, and a little bit before that, where the JLA got thrown back 3,000 years to the beginnings of Atlantis, and Plastic Man dies. He's basically frozen and broken apart, and the JLA being trapped 3,000 in the past, they didn't have the technology to pull him together. And Plastic Man quite possibly could be one of the most dangerous characters in the universe because he's plastic. They found and reassembled him in present day. He was still alive. He's a little crazy from being separated into bits after 3,000 years, but he was still there.
Boy, man, rotary phone. Who needs call 1-800-ATT for collect calls? We can just dial H for heroes. Seriously, anybody remember those commercials from back in the day? Gee whiz, I do. Cliff, any thoughts on this one?
I liked the Dial H for Hero concept. I wish they would have done more with it over the years. But I've been a Plastic Man fan since the early 80s when I watched his cartoon and saw Baby Plastic Man on there. And every comic he shows up in, he's always fun. I loved him in All-Star Squadron from the 80s. Grant Morrison used him really great in the JLA. Yeah, and I always liked the arguments between Elongated Man and Plastic Man about which one was a more important stretchy guy.
Yeah, fair enough. Dave Manley says, for a while, maybe still, Batman considered Plastic Man to be the most dangerous man within the Justice League. I was not aware of that. In my best Wayne Campbell impression. Clyde, Elder Statesman, do you know a thing or two about this character? Because didn't you dial that number way back
Dial
when
H.
in the Jurassic era?
I
where
tell you
were born?
what, yeah.
Yeah.
Dial H, I loved as a kid, and then Wonder Comics a few years ago, DC had that imprint. Did a very nice update of the character, very true to the nature of the original series, I thought. And one of my favorite DC events of the last couple of decades was Silver Age, which showed Robbie Reed being part of the DC universe much more than he was ever shown before in the Justice League, knowing all the Justice League people. And didn't sell real well, but I thought it was a good use of the character. And the Plastic Man appearance, it kind of highlights one of the problems with that character and story. When you have to come up with at least 3 new characters every issue with different powers and stuff, that's a hard character to write on a monthly basis. So I think that hurt it, but it's one of the most creative concepts for a comic book hero that I know.
Fair enough. Lauren, I know we're used to dialing 1-800-COLLECT like Mr. T did in the commercials back in the day, but are you going to dial H for Hero on this one and pick up a copy?
Again, it's one of those, wow, this looks so of its time. Like the whole, what was, not Skinamarink, but whatever it said on the thing of, it's like Smack-a-McGee or something.
Socka-McGee.
Socka-McGee, yes, thank you. It's like, oh, that's so charming. I have heard of Plastic Man. I am less of a DC fan than I am a Marvel fan. Again, people around me, I do really like the DC animated stuff. And I watched Batman Brave and the Bold back in the day, where Plastic Man shows up voiced by Tom Kenny, SpongeBob himself. And I did not know that about going back in time and being blown up and reassembling. And I mean, that would drive anybody a little bit mad. But no, Plastic Man's always seemed pretty interesting from what, again, very little that I know about him. And yeah, I am going to have to go back and find some of that Dial H for Hero because, like I said, I love going back. This is a bit of a conflict between me and my spouse. I love going back to, the Golden Age and Silver Age comics and reading them and being like, oh, look what they were doing at this time. Look what the slang was. Look what they were wearing. And my spouse cannot stand the art or the writing, and it's just like, come on.
Yeah, they were of their time. What are you gonna do? Goodness gracious, heck of a thing to dial H, y'all. Cliff, what's the next character you're gonna present to us?
I'm gonna go with one of my I think it's probably the only quote unquote patriotic character that I really followed for a long time. That's Steel, the Indestructible Man from DC Comics. Yes. Steel was created by Jerry Conway and Don Heck, and they flat out said this was their homage to Captain America. He was Hank Haywood, the Steel, the Indestructible Man. Later, he became Commander Steel in All-Star Squadron. But he started off in his very first appearance was in Steel, the Indestructible Man #1 in 1978. I'm terrible with dates on comics, but he was part of the DC explosion where they just put out like a million new comics all at once. And this one lasted for 5 issues before the implosion where they realized, hey, wait, we're losing money on all these books. So they canceled most of them. And that was the last time you saw Steel for a long time, but he was just a standard. He started off as, I'm Hank Haywood, biology student during World War II. I'm going to join the army to fight the good fight, and got caught in an explosion like, you do. And his professor rebuilt him like the $6 Million Man. And he became Steel, the indestructible man. And that was pretty much it until All-Star Squadron showed up in the 80s, and Roy Thomas was just grabbed every character that was around and had World War II in the title of it. And he was part of the All-Star Squadron for years. I really liked him in that. Him and Robot Man were a great little kind of like Booster and Beetle team for a while. And then he became a legacy character, and there was his grandson became the next Commander Steel and so forth. And then like most characters in the 90s, he got killed by Eclipso, and that was it for him. But yeah, if you're looking for a good, just not Captain America comic, Steel's a good one to read.
Oh, well, giddy up, man. No worries. Clyde, Elder Statesman, any quick thoughts on this particular character?
He was not my top of the line guy from All-Star Squadron, but he was interesting. And then I liked what they did with him for the Legends of Tomorrow. They integrated a later descendant of his, and yeah, it was a very solid character. Part of that, like you said, the $6 Million Man phase of pop culture too. So yeah, it's a good character.
There you go. Lauren, any thoughts?
Another character that I've never heard of, but I'm very glad for that because now I can look into them.
I know we're going to be spending so much money that we don't have on these things. Carlin, real quick, any thoughts on Steel?
Actually, not so much on Steel, but Cliff just made me think of some others that we can use for another year. Machine Man and Rom.
We're going to have to write that one down for 2024's version of the Multiverse FunRaiser. But with that being said, fantastic stuff. So, Clyde, what is the next character you're going to be introducing us to here?
It's interesting that you mentioned Rom and Mike and some of those kind of characters, because Marvel, later in the 70s, we went from 1972, now we're 1976. What's big? Pop culture. Licensing characters for comics. Planet of the Apes, Marvel has done. They're getting ready to do things like Micronauts and ROM and things like that. And all of a sudden they come up with this guy. Caught my attention because on the comic book cover it says he's the wildest superhero because he's real. Can you show me the cover of the Human Fly #1? And the Human Fly is other one. That's issue 18. He went 19 issues all told for Marvel, but there we go. So he's allegedly real. And I took that with a big grain of salt. I was almost a teenager by then going, right. And then I saw him on ABC's Wide World of Sports flying on the back of locked to the back of a jet airliner going through doing a stunt in that outfit. And I was like, oh, I guess he is real. So that got my attention with him. But he was a licensed character. He was not part of the House of Ideas. It's somebody that came to them and said, we want to do a character. We'll give you money. There he is, right outside of his airplane. So this is the time period of the $6 Million Man that is folded into his storyline. Evel Knievel, which you can see that in the outfit and stuff, very Evel Knievel-like. And merchandising for all those things. So when they came to Marvel with a deal, Marvel's not really one to throw a character out, but they helped them define this character. And the real man that was playing the part of the Human Fly had kind of a sketch. He did interviews and stuff. They were trying to make a media sensation, trying to make a celebrity type person. So they were, unlike Evel Knievel, who was a really good stunt man, and then the merchandising deals came. They wanted to make merchandising deals and then build his legend. So that's the approach they took. But the guy, he didn't have a really good story about how he became the Human Fly, except I want to make money and I want to do this stuff. So Marvel helped him come up with a storyline. Yeah, doesn't look like Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
They had him come up with a storyline that Then he started using it in his public appearances of it. This is what really happened to me. Well, okay. The first story was he was involved with a wrestling. He was a stuntman in Hollywood, and he got involved in wrestling with a real gorilla, and they had to replace 90% of his body, his bones, with steel. And Marvel said, no, that's not going to work. That's not true. Oh, yes. And the guy that was playing was like, oh, that's absolutely true. That's the way it was. No, we got to do something that they'll understand, like a traffic accident in which your family was killed, but you live. So the Human Fly basically is a guy that happened to him, and doctors saved his life by replacing 60% of his spine and his bones with metal. But they said, you're crippled, you'll never walk again. And through sheer willpower and physical therapy and battling through the pain, he comes back better than he was before and dedicates his life to the idea that he is going to anonymously do charity events, take out the money he needs to fund his stunts, but charity events for people that have disabilities, for those that are physically challenged, and to show them that this is what you can do if you set your mind to it. This is not the end for you. You can come back. And he hired the support characters in the book. One of them is a handless Vietnam vet who was part of the Corps of Engineers that helps design his stunts. One of them is a female pilot who survived a crash of an airliner that she was flying, but was traumatic. The traumatic incident had made her question her abilities and things. So the support team was like that. He was like this. This is all part of the comic book, not part of real life. But it went 19 issues, which, if you dig around, you'll find that the company that put this together, two guys, they were brothers and they had a lucrative sausage business in Canada, but they made money hand over fist, but they were bored. So they decided to make this icon combining superheroes and stuntmen and stuff and merchandising, get in on that sweet merchandising money. So they created this whole thing. They put him in this outfit so that the idea was that nobody knew who he was and he could change different people that were different stuntmen specialists and different things. We're not sure how many people actually wore the outfit. There were four stunts that he did all together in real life before the brothers said, this isn't turning out, they gave $200,000 to fund his stuff at the beginning. And then they went, this is not a good return. We give up. But the licensing deal with Marvel apparently went on for a while because 19 issues. But it is a very interesting character and not badly written for not being a superhero. He's more like a guy that happens to be in a place where bad things happen and he becomes superheroic. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Dave Manley was saying, Clyde, you're making the Human Fly sound like John Ritter, the late great John Ritter,
Right.
I might add.
Yeah.
Here at large. Clyde, I appreciate your thoughts on this. Unfortunately, we are dangerously running short on time, but thank you for introducing us to the Human Fly. And by the way, in the words of our good friend Jeff Goldblum, life finds a way. So, Lauren, what is the last character you're going to introduce us to on B-List Boosters as we wrap things up?
Okay, so Clyde said it's funny that you brought up Rom. I'm going to say it's funny that you brought up Machine Man because this is kind of a twofer. Elsa Bloodstone, and in the context of her in Next Wave, the Captain. So Elsa Bloodstone was originally Marvel's answer to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and was kind of largely forgotten about until she showed up in Warren Ellis's Next Wave, which I want everybody to read. It's so good. They completely changed her origin story. She's just one of the standout characters. If I could wear heels, I would totally cosplay as her. And the Captain, as another member of the team, none of the Captain words that he has tried has worked. And then just real quick, no association to this at all, but come on, Dupe from Ecstatic. He is a weird potato alien who films stuff and has psychic powers, and sometimes his brain explodes. And he's a lot of fun, and he's weird, and I would have said he would never show up on a Marvel, on-screen project, except he did show up as kind of a dream sequence in Ultimate Spider-Man, the comic. Yes, I was also extremely happy to see Elsa Bloodstone in Werewolf by Night. She has very little resemblance to the Elsa Bloodstone that I know and love from the comics, but again, that's kind of the second attempt at her. This seems to be like, okay, a third attempt at her. I hope to see more of her. And yes, I love Elsa Bloodstone so much.
That sounds like a badass kind of name. But with that being said, that's going to conclude B-List Boosters for the 2023 version of the Multiverse Fundraiser. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Real quick, I want to go around the horn. Carlin, where can the person watching or listening to this follow you on social media if they want to know more about your comic book collection, maybe buy some of it? No, I'm just kidding. Just more about you.
They can easily find me on Facebook. There's only one of me floating around.
Well, that's good, because the last thing we need is multiplicity with Michael Keaton and 4 personalities. Cliff, if someone wants to know more about your stuff, where can they find you?
They must be really bored if they do, but I'm just on Facebook. You can look for me there. If you find my wife, Micah, it's more interesting. She actually posts on there. I just lurk and like everything.
All right. Well, happy wife, happy life. Elder Statesman, Clyde Hall, where can the good person find you on the interwebs, my friend?
Facebook's the easiest. I've got a Twitter account, and also go to Amazon, look up Clyde Hall author, and you'll find some of my work for Stormgate Press.
More phenomenal, if I do say so myself. She likes Star Trek, she likes Star Wars because she's wearing the swag. Lauren, where can the person follow you on social media?
So you can find everything that I've done professionally at my website, lwsalinas.com. And you can find me on Twitter at Sithwitch, Sithwitch, mostly yelling about wrestling these days. Cliff, I just noticed your background. I also have that Kenny Omega little talking dude. And yes, just AEW all the way. Love Kenny Omega, love the Elite, love Hangman. Yeah, I yell a lot about that on my Twitter.
Well, you can sit on the island of being a Kenny Omega fan because I don't like that dude. Anyway, well, I mean, as his character, I don't like it. But anyway, forget about it. My name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. That's enough about me. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at It's Nerd Culture. Check out our videos. Check out our stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Smash that notification bell so you get notified when new videos go up. That is going to do it for the Multiverse Fundraiser 2023 version of B-List Boosters. Before I turn things over to our next moderator and guest for our panel, I'm going to play this for you. And once again, thank you all for being here. We do appreciate it. Don't forget to make a donation at the link in the description below, or it's currently scrolling across the bottom of your screen because this is benefiting the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Mana.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse Fundraiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefundraiser.com, that says Donate Here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hey, Krayley.
Hello, Kelly. We've got both Phoenix sisters in the house.
Can you all handle the Phoenix fire heat? Can Beth Broderick handle it is the question. I'm so excited.
I'm sure she can.
She's a wonderful lady. So we're going to bring on Beth because that's who you're all really here to see. So welcome to our celebrity guest. Welcome, Beth. You look beautiful today.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I am very well. Thank you. I've got all the problems everybody wants. Every day of my life.
That's not a bad thing to have. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
I'm so happy you're partnering with my dear friend John Ritter's foundation. It's very, very moving to me.
We have really enjoyed advocating for them. We're currently at, let me just double check. We're at 37% of our goal, so $740. Yeah, so everyone listening, if you haven't donated yet, keep those donations coming in. We've had a lot of people be very generous. We're really excited. We've also gotten the word out. Amy was really great on Friday, just advocating for the cause, talking about aortic health. She's really knowledgeable. So
yeah, she knows a lot about it, and she's such a brilliant, beautiful lady.
I really enjoyed talking to her. Her story is amazing.
Yeah, pretty great.
So why don't you tell us what's your connection to the John Ritter Foundation?
Well, I met John. The first time I worked with John was on a show called Hooperman. I don't know if you guys remember that show. It was a really funny police kind of comic police procedural kind of a show. And I played this crazy woman who was it was in a manic phase, and she decided she hated all men, and so I was cutting the crotches out of all men's pants in closets that I could find. This is crazy, like. And at one point, they take me out on a stretcher because I'm like completely lost it. And Mark Hamill was also guest starring, and he is funny as all get out. And the two of them together, I'm strapped to this gurney, and the two of them were just making me laugh until I cried. I was weeping. I mean, they were so funny. And I mean, it was just like a dream come true. John and I both love physical comedy. You know, so when we were doing Hearts of Fire together, which we did a show, I think I did a couple seasons of it. I think it ran for 3. It was John Ritter, Marky Post, bless her heart, and it was really a joy to work with him. And John and I would always go like, okay. So John, you come in, the phone will ring. I'll go under the desk. I'll bump my head. You grab the phone, wrap it around. Like we would come up with these incredible, like physical comedy bits. And Harry Thomason, our wonderful director, would just go, John, Beth, please just say the lines. please don't do any of that. Just say the lines. And we never stopped trying to get him to let us do full-on banana peel lampshade comedy.
I love that.
That's what we love to do, you know.
You know what? Life is better with that physical comedy, though. It really is.
Yeah.
And Kristen says she loved Hearts of Fire.
Yeah, I did too. Oh my God. George Gaines, Billy Bob Thornton. There were so many funny people. Working with George Gaines, I don't know if you guys remember who he was. He was the white-haired guy in Police Academy, and he was also in Tootsie. He was the one that serenaded Tootsie from the sidewalk.
Oh my
Funniest
gosh.
man you've ever met in your life. I had to hold a clipboard every time I was in a scene with him because I was laughing, and I would hold it in front of my face because I couldn't get through. I mean, he was so damn funny.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, Punky Brewster. That's what he was also really known for. Funny man. Oh my gosh, we had a lot of fun on that show.
Oh goodness. And so where did your love of comedy and comedic acting come from?
I don't know. Maybe a tortured childhood. I don't know.
It always comes from pain, right?
Right? It always comes from something like that. John had a very complex relationship to the industry and to the world. He was a really deep person and very easily he cared about everyone and everything, every single creature. It was his heart was always breaking. You know, he was really that sensitive. And I think those of us who are that sensitive, we turn to comedy to survive. It's a mechanism, you know.
Oh yeah, humor is huge for coping when you have trauma, and it also becomes like comedy shows become a safe place. Like I know growing up, Sabrina was a safe place for me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I've heard that from so many people, and it's so moving to me. Also, like this is so funny because Melissa and Joan Hart and I sometimes we'll do those conventions and meet fans and stuff, which is really fun to do. And when these girls would approach, Melissa's sitting here and people would approach me and just start crying. She's like, "Why are they always crying?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just make them cry." And, you know, and they would say to me, "I became a scientist because of you," or you know, "You were the mother figure in my life that I could trust," or you know, like it had a big impact on a lot of people's lives, and it's the number 3 streaming show on Peacock right now.
I love that.
It has a whole new audience, a whole new generation of kids that are watching it, and you really can't beat that.
Yeah, it has aged well. Like some shows, you go back and watch them, and you're like,
yeah,
but it really holds up well. And I will be right back. So Crayley, hold down the fort. I'm sorry, my son is asking for.
I was going to say, it sounded like somebody young needs some attention.
Yeah.
Happens.
Yep.
It
I'll be right back.
Darn small humans.
Yeah. Yes.
I say as someone who
God love him.
loves kids. Yeah. My husband, when he was a teen and a preteen, loved Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So I don't know if he's at work right now and he's been tuning in and out. So I'll tell you for him that my husband wants to say thank you for everything you contributed to the show.
He is most welcome. People are always asking me, and I've been very blessed to do dozens and dozens of movies and lots of TV shows. People are always like, "What's the favorite job you ever did?" I'm like, the one that made young people happy all over the world. That one. That would be the favorite. Although I sure did love being Hearts of Fire too. The Thomasons, Linda Blover Thomason, who was the writer. Did I have a favorite guest star on Sabrina? Gosh, there were so many. The Backstreet Boys were amazing.
Oh my gosh, I was such a huge boy band fan.
Right? They were on Sabrina. I actually danced with one guy. He was so sweet. We had a lot of amazing guest stars, but I think maybe the great singer Johnny Mathis was my favorite because he came on a Christmas episode and sang Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire. Oh, it killed us all because he was so famous for that.
Yeah. So in case you're listening to the audio only, that was Beth answering Kristen's question. Did you have a favorite guest star on Sabrina? So yeah, man. Although you've done some more serious work too, for sure. I remember in Under the Dome, you played a character who died in a pretty dramatic way, didn't you?
No, I die a lot. I've died so many times. My friends are always like, "How many times have you died?" Because I just died recently in Criminal Minds. And and in a lot of movies, in Purity Falls, Watch Over Me, like so many. But yeah, I enjoy doing drama. I really do. I think, if I did another series, which I don't know if I would want to do, but if I did, I would really love to do a comedy. It's kind of where I love to live. I love doing, I had a big Christmas movie this year on Hallmark called When I Think of Christmas, where I also sang. I also sing. So if you guys missed it, go find it because it's a fun movie. And I sing. So to me, that world, the Hallmark world of Christmas movies is also really a beautiful place to be. It's because it makes people so happy. And the material is so fun to do.
Yeah, I know for me, a lot of people find Christmas a little more stressful than it should be. And so being able to step into those films that show the family, they go through the holiday stress, they come out the other end with some humor and love and stuff like that is an important part of the season to me. So I'm so glad there are people like you and I find out they enjoy making that stuff for us too. It means
I think most of us really do enjoy it. I mean, those people that don't enjoy anything they do, that would not be me. For me, it's all about, if I didn't love what I do, I wouldn't do it,
right.
As I have a choice and I choose to do it because I love the people in this business. Most people, talk about how, Hollywood can be such a tough place, and it can be tough, especially when you're starting out and you're trying to find your way and make your mark and figure out where you fit. But for the most part, the people in this business are super sweet and really love what they do. And it's hard work and it's grueling. It can be 16-hour days. So you have to love it, or you really wouldn't do it. So, you know, I've met a lot of wonderful people doing what I do. John was one of my favorite people on the planet. I loved working with him. So, you know, to get those kind of opportunities to work with people who are that sweet and that talented and that loving and kind is, you know, it makes it all worth doing.
Yeah, we've had a whole weekend now of just listening to amazing stories of how John touched people's lives. And that is why we're here. If you're just tuning in this weekend, this is the Multiverse FunRaiser. We're supporting the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. One of my backstage helpers, who's also on our board of directors, just let me know that we are up to $800 now. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for donating. I'm going to donate the minute we hang up. So if you're watching this or listening to this, this is a really important foundation. And John Ritter would be so thrilled to know that we're all together and that we're supporting his foundation.
It does sound like it. Yeah. So there's information on how to donate scrolling across the bottom of the screen or wherever you're watching this. There are links in the description that you can click to go and donate. And we'll definitely tell you more about it at the end of the episode. But I got that $800 news. It's a big milestone. Got excited.
That's awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for donating.
And we've got some guest questions. Kristen wants to know, did you get to work with Leslie Jordan on Hearts of Fire?
I think I did. I don't, you know, I've met him so many times and I've done so many shows. Like people are like, do you remember that episode? I'm like, no, I don't remember any of the episodes because I've done thousands. But I certainly knew him and had met him several times. I'm not sure if we were on episodes together, but he is a lovely human being, was a lovely human being. I'm sad. But, you know, life isn't forever for any of us, right?
That is true. We have to make the most of it while we're here. I've also got a question from Skylar Productions. Willow at Skylar Production wants to know, Cassandra Peterson, Elvira, has mentioned that she filmed a pilot of a show with the premise of Sabrina, but was never picked up. Have your paths ever crossed to discuss this?
Well, we certainly have a lot of friends in common, Cassandra and I, and we have met a couple of times, but I don't think we ever discussed that. So, no, we haven't discussed it, but I do know Cassandra. I'm a big fan of hers. I'm a super admirer of hers. But I don't think we discussed that. No, it's interesting. You know, when I read the pilot of Sabrina, first of all, they wanted me to come in to read for Hilda. And I called my agent. I said, well, this is going to be a hit and I'm going to be Zelda. And my agent was like, just do what they tell you to do. And I was like, okay. So I walked in and I read Hilda. And then I said, there's like 30 people standing there. And I said, all the producers, and I said, you guys, I'm Zelda. You need to let me read for Zelda. And, you know, when you put people on the spot like that, what can they say? You know what I mean? They're just like, well, okay. So they let me do it. And then they were like, oh, that's right. She's Zelda. So it worked out perfectly. And then when I remember seeing Caroline Ray from across the room, on another day that we were all there for some reason, and me looking at her and thinking, there she is. That's my sister. That's Hilda. And
Right.
I was right. So
I love that.
You know.
Do you two keep in touch still?
Oh, yeah.
Aw.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to actually talk to her. We have a Zoom tomorrow. And Melissa and I are still very close. We, you know, I still talk to Nate. I still talk to Jenna. I still talk to Elisa. Everybody that was on that show with us. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, a lot of the people from Hearts of Fire have left us.
Yeah, that's so sad when that happens. But like you said, nothing lasts forever, and you cherish the moments you have.
Yeah. And you have your heart checked. Everybody get your heart checked regularly.
Yes, and know the symptoms of aortic dissection and advocate for yourself, which is important.
Yeah, very important. I have a friend named Charles Bush, who's a playwright and a funny guy. And he was years ago, he was like, he went to a therapist and he was like, I'm so depressed. I just feel like blah. I don't want to do anything. And finally his therapist was like, when's the last time you had a checkup? And he was like, well, I don't know. It's been a while. And the therapist was like, just go have a checkup. So he made an appointment at NYU. And he's in the doctor's office. And the doctor listened to his heart. And the doctor said, is there anyone you can call? I'm calling an ambulance. And they literally, like, took him, like, they're like, don't even stand up. Like, they took him out. And he was in surgery like a couple hours later. And they saved his life. But he thought he was depressed. You know?
Oh my gosh.
That is
Wow.
a really common story. Unfortunately, a lot of people go to a therapist feeling depressed and are recommended to go see a doctor and find out that they have low iron is the example that comes to mind for me, because it happened to me recently. Really recently. Yeah, I found out my iron was just dangerously low. So don't miss those checkups, even if you think, you know, maybe you think you have a different problem than you have or whatever. Advocate for yourself to get fully checked. That's one of the things we're talking about this weekend is John, they thought he had a heart attack when actually he had aortic dissection. So
yeah,
yeah,
which is a different ballgame, and you treat it differently. Yeah.
So
but he was also, you know, sick for hours and hours before he consented to go into the hospital. So
Don't do that either.
I have
don't
been
do that.
guilty
I mean,
of that.
I'd rather be, you know, I'd rather be safe than sorry. Right?
Me too.
And now I'm going to be 64 years old next month.
Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, yeah.
February 24th. That's right. So if you want to give me a birthday present, donate to John Ritter's Aorta Foundation. Woohoo!
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to be 64 next month, which is kind of a ho-hum age, isn't it? No, really not much to it. I mean, 65 is like, wah! That's a big that's a big brouhaha. That's a big change. But 64 just feels like
Like
lucky.
what? Yeah.
I'm lucky to be turning it. But yeah, I don't play games with my health at all. If something feels wrong or off or questionable, I go see somebody.
Good.
That is good. Everybody, Beth Broderick, another reason for her to be a role model for us all is she is being proactive about her health. So, you know.
Yay.
And it is important to do all, to do all the things that they tell you to do. Get your exercise. You know, I do 15,000 steps a day.
Wow.
You know, eat properly and, try to keep your stress level down. Look, something's coming for everybody. Something's got your name written on it. You know, there's like, that's what you get. So we all deal with, health issues differently. But my contention is that if you do everything they tell you not to do and you do it often enough, it's gonna get you. So everybody, put your stepper on and get out there and move in this world, because it's such a beautiful world to see. So it'll be good for your body and your mind.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's encouraging, and we've got more audience questions here. Kristen wants to know if you have any stories about working with Marion Ross.
Oh my goodness, she is such a delight. Oh my God, she is fun. She is non-stop fun. And and she's a character. She's like, well, I like to go home and have a scotch and have some, she's so, and then I like to go out and meet people for cocktails. And she was quite elderly at the time, but she it was actually supposed to be Shirley Jones in that movie, but Shirley got super sick on her way back from Japan. And so Marion, they called her and they threw her into the movie. And that's not easy for people, especially when you're older like that. She was perfect. She didn't miss a beat, and she was super, super funny.
Yeah, we've been really lucky to hear from so many really funny people this week, and Amy was so funny. I was
Oh my gosh.
backstage, and I was so glad that I was muted in case anything actually got heard because I was laughing. I literally slapped my knee several times. Like,
Yeah, she's something else.
She's a
mhm.
hoot.
We've also got a question coming in from Nancy Johnson, who asks, "How was it working with Salem the cat as a puppet and real cat with Nick Bakay?" Bakay. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nick Bakay is a genius and a lovely human being, so working with him was a dream. But the puppet, honest to God, you know, I would forget it was a puppet. Like, I would just be petting it and talking to it when we weren't rolling. Like, you know, people would be like, it's
so
not
cute.
I'm terrible that way. Like, I'm always like holding the phone. People are like, it's not a real phone. I'm like, it is to me. Like, you know, like the props all become really real. And Salem just felt really real. We had some live cats too. We had Elvis was the main live cat, and Elvis was amazing. He would drive in, like at one point there was a scene where he had to drive in on a fire truck, climb the ladder onto the table, and pretend to put out the fire. Oh, a cat. And I used to go home to my cat and be like, what did you do all day? Nothing. Salem is driving fire trucks and putting out fires, and you're just lying to, you know, like, it was an amazing animal. Elvis, it was his name, who played Salem most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I loved working with both the puppet and with Nick Bakay. Nick Bakay is very, very, very smart, funny, incredible improviser. I mean, he just made stuff up on the spot that would just have you rolling. So it was fun.
Another funny person, more funny stories. I have laughed so much this weekend. It's been important to me. I've had my own health problems. We're talking about health a lot in this interview. And so, you know, if you're having some health problems getting you down right now, go watch Beth Broderick or any of the other celebrities and any of the funny stuff that we've talked about this weekend and cheer yourself up, right?
Yeah. I mean, attitude is a lot of it, right? I mean, it's, you know, you can give in, or you can just say, well, all right, this is what's happening. Let's have a good attitude about it and be in the solution. Because a lot of people like to live in the problem. They like to talk about the problem all the time. And I'm like, okay, I'll let you talk about the problem if you can also tell me what your solution might be or how we can move toward a solution, you know?
I love that because it is important to be able to vent. At least I think it is, you know, and get everything out of your system. But it must be really great to have someone around who's like, I will listen to that. But also, like, I just want to encourage you to talk about some solutions and work through things. That is a great system. Like,
especially when it comes to like people who are else complaining about politics or complaining about what's going on. And I'm like, what are you doing to make it better? Because I'm trying to make it better. I'm raising money. I'm, you know, supporting candidates. I'm make sure I vote. Try to help other people get to the polls. So what are you doing to make it better? And if you're not doing something to make it better, then you need to stop complaining. It's also a great way to endure. There are problems in the world. I mean, we have all been through a lot these last few years with the pandemic and, you know, a lot of upheaval all around us, and trying to be part of the solution makes it easier to get up every day and face the problems, you know?
It
So
does.
I'm a huge believer in that.
It does. Thank you. Molly Daniels says laughter is the best medicine. And
absolutely.
I totally agree. Totally agree. And Kristen Marie is letting us all know that she got to see Jenna in Marvelous Wonderettes in New York City.
Oh, she is so multi-talented. She can sing, she can dance, she can do a million things. And Melissa, too, is incredibly talented. You know, Melissa has a huge directing career now as well.
And I actually didn't know that. I actually didn't know that. I bet my husband did, though, since...
Yeah, she's a terrific director. I love working with her in that capacity. But I'll do anything to work with Melissa. Anything. You could say, here, we want you to just try on shoes for an hour with Melissa. I would do it. Like she's so dear to me. I love her so much. So I'm glad you got to see them live.
Yeah, Kristen has seen some really talented people get out and about, and Kristen, in case you all don't know, is the person who like liaises with a lot of our guests. So even though you don't see her on screen the way you see Kelly and I a lot throughout the weekend, if you want to pop in the comments and thank Kristen for helping us make this happen,
Yeah,
really
she's responsible for all the celebrities that you see on screen.
Nice.
Yeah, she's our all-star.
So tell me about you two. You live in the same city?
We do not.
You don't.
No, I'm from Wisconsin and Curly's a Hoosier.
Yeah, I'm from Indiana, so we make the long drive to make sure we can collaborate on stuff. So
yeah, but not today. Today we're joining you virtually.
Yeah. I was just curious because you seem so close.
We are. Thank you.
Well, I notice these things. It's my job. Observation is my job.
Right?
Yeah.
When people ask me, hey, how was it to get to interview Beth Broderick? And now I can be like, she's funny and she was super insightful and observative and takes care of her health. Oh my goodness.
You got to do that.
Yeah, we bonded over cosplaying as Jean Grey, the Phoenix, and realized that because she's a psychic character, and we realized that we think a lot alike, and then we started realizing that our migraines were on the same days, even though Curly was living in Colorado at the time. I don't know. We realized we were in different states, different elevations. I don't even know. And so we started joking that we had a Phoenix bond. So that's how we got our name, our cosplay name. And so we basically have a psychic bond.
Yeah, right.
In case anybody's wondering what I have behind me, actually, we met doing
Molly
cosplay.
Oh, look at who's there.
That's my Baxter High cheerleader uniform it's from the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, because that was easier to find now. But
yeah, that was fun doing that show too. We sat down at the table read because Caroline and I did that episode.
Yeah.
And there was all these people there, and some of them had grown up watching Sabrina. And I had the first line, and I was like, Sabrina, is that you? And the whole place was like, wow! It just melted down as they were so excited to have us there. It was really fun.
That was how I felt watching that episode, and I was late to watching it months after it came out too, and I knew it was going to happen, and even still I got chills. I was just like, oh, it's the other Aunt Zelda,
Pun intended, right?
It was super fun to meet our counterparts. It was really fun. Somebody named Molly just asked me if I'm going to do any conventions this year. And yes, Molly, I'm going to be at the 90s convention, March 17th through 19th. So look for that, 90s Con. It's the 17th through the 19th. And I will be there. And so will Caroline Ray. And I think Melissa will be there too.
Where is that? I need to go.
I'm not sure. I think it's in Connecticut.
Ooh,
but I'm not 100% sure on that. You'll have to look it up. The last time I was in Connecticut at the 90s Con, I was in my booth and this young woman came through and she was a little bit nervous. So sometimes people are really nervous. And so I gave her autograph and took a picture with her. And then this young man came in to my booth and he was really nervous. And he was like, she loves you and I want to ask her to marry me. Can you help me? Can I do? And I was like, yes. So I was like, can somebody go get her, please? Can you come back in here? So she comes into my booth and he gets down on one knee and she starts to cry and I start to cry. Melissa looks over and she's like, what are you doing now? And I'm like, so we filmed it. Melissa ran over. That was so much fun. I think I posted it on my Instagram account. You can find it there. It was just such a wonderful moment to watch these two get engaged. It was so sweet. But you never know what's going to happen at these conventions, and things like that make it all worthwhile.
I think that's my favorite fan story ever. Thank you for sharing that. That's so cute. Oh my gosh.
He was so nervous. And then he got down on one knee and she's like, oh, we were all a wreck. Everybody in line was a wreck. It was so sweet.
Yeah. Molly also says, fangirl moment. Beth said my name.
I remember I saw you there, Molly. Maybe I'll see you at the 90s con.
Well, she says, crap, I'm in Indiana.
I'm
You know
in
what?
Indiana too, Molly? Maybe we'll make a road trip.
I was going to say, I'll just come out and road trip with you all. And then Nancy Johnson wants to know, which of your favorite Christmas movies was your favorite to do? Do you have a favorite?
Gosh, they are also. I really loved this last one I did, When I Think of Christmas. It was such a fun cast. Mark Adrian Humphrey and Neil and Shanae. We never stopped laughing. But I also did a movie called A Perfect Christmas List, which was with Marion Ross and Ellen Holman, and that was really a joy to do. They've all been a joy to do. I've loved them all, but I particularly love those two.
Oh, thanks.
I will have to add those to my list of those Christmas movies that I love Christmas movies. Kelly and I were still watching Christmas movies like last weekend even. Together. We watched one together on our laptops, just messing.
All right, well, you got to watch When I Think of Christmas so you can hear me sing. I sing the song I sing is called When I Think of Christmas.
Ooh.
So that was really fun. Challenging. They're like, and we're going to need you to sing. I was like, okay. You know, I used to sing quite a lot, but I haven't done it in a long time, which will teach me a lesson. You know, don't let it slide because you never know when you're going to need it.
They're like, she did that once 20 years ago, so she can do it.
Yeah, and I was like, well, yeah, I can. Like, so, you know, it was very challenging, but very fun, and we had a lot of fun making that movie. And Ellen and I we just got on like a house. We were just so close. And I still am in contact with her occasionally. I just loved her to death, and Marion. So that was also a really fun movie. Perfect Christmas List is very fun. If you haven't seen it, you guys should rent it. It's fun. And it's been out a long time. And you can probably stream it anywhere.
Excellent.
Right. And Kristen says, I like the one with Robert Pine and the reindeer.
Yeah, he's so sweet, too. Oh, God. Yeah, and Nikki Whelan is in that, and she's lovely, adorable, fantastic. I just did a movie with her called The Nana Project, and that I'm actually going to do the ADR on it, which is, you guys know what ADR is? So for everybody listening or watching, ADR is when we go in, when you finish the movie, you go in during post-production, and sometimes you have to replace the dialogue, so you have to match yourself with the dialogue in a fresh way because somebody was crinkling a paper when you were talking, or there was a siren in the background, or something that's interfering with the sound. So I'm going to be doing that tomorrow, actually. So
have a good day at work tomorrow.
Romance at Reindeer Lodge was a really fun movie to do, and loved working with Nikki. I still love working with Nikki. I see her whenever I can, and Robert Pine. Oh my God. He and I played so much gin rummy in between scenes. He was funny. I beat him all the time too. He was like, "You're a ringer." I was like, "I'm a mean card player."
I love that.
Clyde Hall says, "Hi Beth, loved Under the Dome and you running the Sweetbriar Rose. What was it like working in that ensemble? Great show."
Under the Dome was really interesting. There were so many people involved that I didn't really get close to any of them because there were so many crowd scenes, and it was, such a complex story. But I remember reading the book on the way to North Carolina is where we shot that, and just thinking, oh my God, this is complex. This is going to be really a wild experience. And it was the same people that I did Lost for, as I was on Lost for a couple of seasons. So I knew it was going to be a great production. I knew it was going to have good production values, and it was, and it did. And it was an interesting group of people. I liked them all.
Yeah, I loved Under the Dome. It was all twisty and turny, and I can't imagine it would be hard to get close to any one of the other actors on that show, maybe, though, because they have so many storylines that cross over each other in like the most complicated way.
Right.
I think really only the teenagers had a lot of like together on screen time.
Mhm, that's true. That's so true. And then they killed my character off quite early in the process, so I wasn't there for very long. But it was a fun show to do for sure.
Yeah. Stephen Fisher has a question and asks, so when you are making a Christmas movie, usually what time of year is the filming, and what's it like to be in the spirit of Christmas off season?
Well, it's always fun to be in the spirit of Christmas, and really, it is.
A good answer. I agree.
Most of the time most of the Christmas movies I've done have been filmed in Canada, and sometimes they're pretty close. Like Romance at Reindeer Lodge, it was cold, and there was real snow on the ground. But a lot of them, there's one called Blending Christmas that I did in the spring, which is a Christmas movie that sort of takes place in a place like Arizona, so it's supposed to be warm. And it's still, that the spirit of Christmas, the spirit of like giving and coming together with your family and all of that. It's the cliche to say that we all, should feel that all year round, but we should. So it's not that hard to get into the spirit of it. That movie was very fun too, with Greg Evigan and a bunch of people from the Brady Bunch. So that was quite interesting to see those people be in a reunion with one another. They've known each other all their lives, really. They were very sweet, and they're all still very close. So that was fun. But, my big party every year at Christmas this was the 33rd year that my friends and I have gotten together to provide gifts for the women in the emergency shelter at the Good Shepherd Home for Battered Women. And I started working with the shelter 33 years ago. And so we have a big event, and we all come together, and we wrap these beautiful gifts, and each woman gets a big bag and a big box, and it's full of lotions and perfumes and things that you leave home without, hair barrettes and everything you can think of that people need in a shelter situation when they've had to leave home abruptly. So it's that is Christmas to me. That is that party, that coming together, making those gifts happen. That to me is Christmas. The rest is all just yummy food. My mom passed away a few years ago. My mom was a present fanatic. Like, if we didn't get her like a million presents, she was not happy. So we just buried her in presents. She was just always surrounded by ribbon and paper and bows, None of the rest of us really care about presents. But she was always part of that party too. And my dad would always come down for Christmas. So it's an amazing holiday. This was my first time without my parents. My first Christmas without either one of them. And I had COVID. And I had COVID the whole time.
No, that's terrible. Oh.
Yeah, it could have been more annoying, but I'm not sure how.
Well, then I am really happy that you usually get to experience Christmas sometimes off season. Maybe that'll make that up a little bit.
Hopefully I'll make a movie soon and get to have Christmas again.
Have a proper Christmas.
Do you hear that, Hollywood? Put Beth in a Christmas movie.
Gifts, and then I went to meet some friends, and that pot of friends is where I got
no.
So, but we did get the gifts delivered to the shelter, so I had Christmas.
Well,
I
that's
was
good.
Not in the mood for any of the yummy food that goes along with it.
Yeah, my family had it over Thanksgiving. So.
Oh, really?
It was not a good Thanksgiving.
No. Mm-mm.
At least it was mild, but.
Yeah, mine was pretty mild. It was not the first time I've had it. I sort of worked all through the COVID crisis, and I was on a mini series called Love and Death, which should be coming out soon on HBO. And HBO is very rigid with their protocols. They're very specific, they're really careful. And so 7 months of shooting, and I didn't get it. And then the last day, I'm in Taylor, Texas, in my hotel room. We shot all day in a freezing cold prairie, and the phone rings, and it's the AD, and she's like, "Beth, your makeup artist is really sick with COVID." And I was like, "Okay, all right." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine." She had like 5 masks on or whatever. 2 days later, I was like, "Holy moly, yeah, not good." But you do everything you can to avoid it, and walking out your door is a risk. You get hit by a car, or your makeup artist could have COVID. Like, you don't know what's gonna happen,
Yeah.
But I got through it.
That's
So
good.
I've been through it a couple of times now. But, it gets easier because you're not as the first time you get it, you're like, it's frightening. And like we were talking about before, like attitude has a lot to do with it, right? Just to stay calm, monitor your symptoms, get help if you need it. Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you. Yeah. We also are getting some conversation in the chat over here talking about Chips. Molly says, I remember Robert Pine on Chips. I was also a John fan, not Punch. And Kristen kind of replied, said, Molly, I liked John too, and my sister calls Robert my father-in-law, LOL.
Robert Pine is a sweetheart. Oh my God, he's such a nice man. He was so fun to work with him.
Well, I'm sure he would be a great father-in-law then.
Yes, he would. He would for sure.
Yep. Kristen also wants to know, is there anything coming up that you can talk about?
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff coming out soon. I have a movie called One True Loves, which is based on a book of the same name, and it promises to be a big hit. And they have the miniseries for HBO, Love and Death, which should be debuting any minute now. And I have the movie that I'm doing the ADR for, the Nana Project, and that should be coming out in pretty soon. So One True Loves, the Nana Project, and Love and Death. Look for them. They're all great projects, and they all promise to be really good.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear. And we also have Molly Daniels wants to know, did Stephen King ever come to the set?
He didn't, and I wish he had, because I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I follow him on Twitter. I mean, I've read almost everything he's written. And he did not come visit. And I think he actually took some exception to the liberal way that they dealt with the plots.
I've heard that he's not a fan of film adaptations of his books a lot of times.
I think that he's kind of and for good reason, a stickler. And his plotting is so deliberate and determined that I think it's hard for him when people take, like, my character Rose should have been all the way through the series to the end. So like that kind of thing, he takes exception to that. So if he came to the set, he probably wouldn't have been a very happy camper.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That does make sense. So maybe you'll meet him somewhere else.
I would love to. When they ask people in their interviews, who would you invite to your dinner party? He would definitely be one of them.
Well, who are your... say 2 more out of 3 people you would invite to a dinner party? Who else would you invite?
Stephen King for sure, Martha Stewart, and Barack Obama.
Ooh,
it's an interesting mixture.
I would love to go to the dinner party.
Would be interesting, right?
Yeah, I would just love to be a fly on the wall. Heck.
Yeah. I love Martha Stewart. I think
too.
Barack Obama is brilliant, and Stephen King is amazing.
Yep. Willow at Skylar Productions says, my city of Winnipeg is often used for Hallmark movies. I hope the people from here treated you well during your stay.
Oh my goodness. I fell in love with Winnipeg. I loved Winnipeg. I walked around and I saw as much of it as I could. It's not a big joint. but it, they have this beautiful festival, like this Indigenous Peoples Festival, and beautiful like exhibits, and the people are so warm, and the food was delicious actually. And there's like these water taxis, and there's actually a part of Mars that is named Winnipeg, because in the winter Winnipeg is as cold as this section of Mars. So they actually have named it Winnipeg.
I did not know that.
So yeah, there is Winnipeg on Mars as well. But it is a delightful place. I would love to work there again, actually. So you tell them that, Skylar. I'll come and see you anytime. I love Canada. I love Toronto. I love Vancouver. Vancouver's like a home away from home for me. I've been there so many times. And my first television series was called Glory Days, and it was Brad Pitt and me. Believe it or not. And two other boys. Yeah, two other young men. And it was in the early days, obviously, when Canada wasn't really set up for filming. There weren't studios or anything like that. So we were just like in big warehouses, surrounded by space heaters, like yeah, trying to make this show. But I loved it even then. I loved being there. It's an amazing place. So I'm always happy to go to Canada. I love getting that call.
All right. Nancy Johnson wants to know, on Sabrina, you did magic scenes. Were those CGI, or did you film separate scenes to create the effect?
Good question, Nancy. Actually, the technology of CGI wasn't really available until the last 2 years of Sabrina. So a lot of those effects are practical, meaning if like I go like this and orange juice shoots out, there's a thing attached to orange juice in your back, like with a tube. Like it was that practical. Those flash pots were real. We kept getting burnt in the eye.
Oh no!
Come up in your eye. And we did so much with green screen. So you would freeze, and then you would later on have to go in front of a green screen and match your exact body position. And they would be like, no, move your thumb a half an inch to the left. No, go back a quarter inch. Like it would be that exacting. It would take hours and hours and hours to match your freeze on the green screen. So a lot of it was very practical. There's a reason we were there 16-hour days sometimes. It took a long time to shoot some of those effects. And all the animals were, except for the animatronic cat, there was a lot of wildlife that was part of the show. Chimpanzees and Brahma bulls. We had a lion, and they had a invisible fence around the perimeter where the lion was, and the lion was just like, yeah, whatever. Boom, blew right through it and was running around on the set. Like, oh my God, the script supervisor went home and did not come back that day. She was like, not doing lions. So, we had, it was very fun, but there was a lot of complex technical aspects at play.
Yeah, that's so interesting to hear, because when you watch it on screen, it's all so very smooth, And I mean, I'm sure that's true of like most productions, but before CGI, I imagine that was a longer day for the people who are there physically on set. Now with CGI, I'm sure it's a longer day for people in post. So
right. Well, it's it's changed everything. The technology is just so advanced now. I remember being on, I think it was Blending Christmas, and I had a rash on my ankle, and I went to the makeup department. I was like, I don't know, I have this weird rash. Do we want to cover it with makeup? And she goes, they'll paint it out in post. I'm like, really? To just paint it out in post? Wow, I never even thought of that. Yeah, so I mean, we have these technologies now that are quite interesting, and make, there's still a lot of authenticity that has to be brought to every stunt and every situation, but there is a lot they can do in post that really is amazing for someone like me who was making movies and doing special effects long before CGI existed.
Right. We've got about 6 minutes left, so I want to make sure I get to as many of the comments as I can. Kristen
Okay.
wants to know what your favorite book and author are.
Oh boy, I'm gonna go with a recent author. I'm gonna go with Amor Tolls, and The Lincoln Highway is his newest. But anything he's written is like written in gold. He's an incredible writer.
All right. And then Clyde wants to know what your favorite Stephen King book or books were. We were talking about Stephen King earlier.
Oh, The Stand.
The Stand. That is one of my absolute favorites too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I love that book. And Amor Tolls also wrote The Gentleman from Moscow, which is a must read.
And Candace Gilligan says, I love Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Well, we love you for loving it, because you are keeping it on the air and you're keeping that beautiful spirit alive. And believe me, we all feel very privileged to have been part of it.
Yeah, you're not alone, Candace. You're in good company. Right. Well, I also wanted to know if there's any sort of parting wisdom that you have. You mentioned that you find that Hollywood actually, especially after you've gotten past that beginning point, can be more welcoming than some people portray it as.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. The icon's over there, very tiny and hard to see. So what is your advice for people who are in that beginning stage of trying to get into acting to stay positive? Because you've talked so much about staying positive and taking care of yourself. What are your words of wisdom for people trying to get into acting?
I would say know who you are. No one is lying awake at night wondering what to do with you, how to use you, where to put you in the industry. You need to know where you fit, and you need to be able to express that and to help convince the producers that you belong there. You know, people are risking a lot of money on you. When they bet on you as a performer, they're betting a lot of money. And so it really is a business. And one of the reasons I think that I work so much is that I'm super reliable. I'm never late. I know my lines. I'm nice to everyone because I like everyone, but I'm also it's important to me to be nice and to be responsible. So whatever chances you do get, like when I was first breaking in, I wrote a thank you note to any casting director who brought me in, because I was grateful to be part of the mix and be considered. You know, everything's so different now, and it's harder to create those relationships because we're all virtual now. But you still have to, really understand that when people take a chance on you, you have to deliver, and you have to do your homework. And I always say, make sure your body's in shape, make sure your mind is in shape, make sure you're ready to go, and study. Find a good teacher and study and study and study, because there's a lot of pretty people in the world. You have to know what you're doing.
Great. I think this is the last question that we have time for. Kristen wants to know if you have a favorite Sabrina blooper.
Oh my gosh, there were so many. Oh my God, there were so many. Well, there was a scene, and I can't remember why, but Caroline and I were standing next to each other, and there were these doves that were supposed to fly over our heads, and I can't remember why. And I just looked at her and I said, "Change places with me, will you?" And so we changed places, and the doves fly over and poop all over her head. He goes, "I hate you." And I'm like, "Sorry." And she's like, "Change back." So we change back, we shoot it again, and the pigeons come and poop on her on the other side. And she was not happy with me that day.
Oh my goodness. I have to that is really funny. I have to recover now for a second before I can transition us back into our donate video. So, if you can hear it through my laughter, this is the Multiverse FunRaiser. We are a free convention that is not just raising funds for a good cause. We are raising fun. This year, we are supporting the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. We've been here with Beth Broderick, who's been amazing, sharing her stories of her time with John and a lot of important information about protecting your health in general.
Really? Wait. I'm going to interrupt you because before you play the video, Beth, where can people find you?
Oh, well, gosh, everywhere. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm really bad at TikTok, so don't look there. And I have a couple of official fan pages on Facebook too, so you can find me. I'm around.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. Clearly, you can go on with your spiel. I'm sorry.
I told you making me laugh like that was going to make me mess something up there.
Well, it's my great pleasure. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing it in John's honor and in honor of his foundation. He is somebody who touched my life very deeply, and I will always love him. And thank you, and love to all of you for being here. And everybody, don't forget to donate, okay?
Yes, don't forget to donate. We are going to play a very short clip right now that has very clear, succinct directions on how to do that. Beth, thank you so much. I know we just thanked you, but I want to thank you again. You've been so great.
My great pleasure. My great pleasure. Anytime. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says donate here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
All right. Well, we're still waiting for William to show up, but we can bring our next host on. So let's welcome Dough Hubler. Hello, Doug. Surprise!
Hi, you kids.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm tolerable, I guess, for an old man. I ain't doing too bad. How about you guys? That was beautiful with that last interview, that last Q&A. That was wonderful.
Thank you. Beth
Thank
is
you so much.
Amazing, like very, very inspiring. We had fun talking to her.
And I love this format of the virtual convention. I mean, I'll always love going to physical conventions in person, but you get a lot more opportunity to submit your comments in the virtual stuff because they can just pop it up on screen. There's no queuing, no lines. Like,
yes, I agree.
Well, I apologize for the green screen. I'm so used to Zoom. I always put something behind me, but I'm not doing that now.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, any plain background works for stuff like this, and
you actually can put something in.
I just don't know how to do it on this one.
We're going to turn this hour into a tutorial teaching Doug to use StreamYard. Doug and all of you all out there. Which reminds me that I should repeat Amy's joke that she gave me. So I went through everything on Thursday night with Amy, and she said, she was like, my milkshake brings all the boys to the StreamYard. And she was like, you can use that. Welcome, Willow.
Hey.
Hey, what's up? What's happening?
Hello. So Creely and I are going to drop out, but we're going to bring George in, and you three can talk about the greatest American hero or whatever you want until.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air.
Exactly. I was hoping this would turn into a sing along. Yes.
Actually, the funny thing is that while that theme song's been going through my head all day, what's also been going through my head is the bit from Seinfeld where George changes his answering machine and says, "Believe it or not, George is not at home."
I love it.
That.
I love that. Yeah, I love that song was in Gilmore Girls, the episode where
The rock
Jackson
version.
runs for mayor and they do a rock cover of it. And at first they're like, this song is so lame, we don't want to do it. And they're like, no, we made a commitment. And so they do a rock cover of it with no rehearsal. And Suki comes out on stage and goes, it's different live, I guess.
There are not many classic TV theme songs that were also top 10 pop hits as well.
Right.
So come on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that seems like it's that's become the popular norm of having hit songs for TV theme songs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well,
there's not been a lot. I think Monkeys was a big one. I mean, Monkeys theme obviously, but Greatest American Hero was way up there. That was top 10 anyway.
Yep, absolutely.
Didn't Supernatural have a pretty big hit song?
Well, Supernatural ran off of "Carry On My Wayward Son." That was their biggie, but obviously that song was done a couple of decades earlier. So.
And it wasn't their original theme. They actually had just like regular music. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, Crayley and Kelly, I'll let you guys pop out of here. So
Love you
thank
guys.
you all very
Bye.
much. That was a wonderful interview with Beth. So
thank you.
Take care, you guys. All right. Let them go pursue a life of religious fulfillment and whatnot.
Oh, yes, of course. Must be done.
But yeah, no, you're right. That was Supernatural. I love that the last season finally they were able to use "Carry On" for the theme song.
Yeah.
So
and Dean saying, "I love this song." I'm going, yes, finally, somebody says it. Finally.
Well, as we are waiting for William Katt to show up, of course, here, obviously, we got to talk about favorite projects of his. So, Doug, seeing as you are the host extraordinaire of this, we got to start off with you, man. Where's it start?
I have no idea. I'm just a rapidly aging hippie and a rapidly aging body, just real happy to be here. So, loving you guys, and the whole concept of being able to talk to Mr. Katt. Obviously when he gets here, I've got all kinds of questions, but I go back to Butch and Sundance, the early years. That was the first thing I saw him in. I know he did Big Wednesday around the same time, but I just didn't see that. But I saw Butch and Sundance because I was a big Butch and Sundance fan.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, going from that, going into Carrie, and then, moving into Greatest American Hero, Pippin, everything, House, holy crap, everything. I mean, just a wide range. But I also want to talk to him about his parents, about Barbara and Bill. He came from a showbiz family.
Absolutely.
But I want to ask, did he want to be a child star, or did he avoid that? Because 78 is kind of down the road.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
He grew up in Hollywood. He grew up with Hollywood parents. So I'm really curious as to see where all that came from and how all that just fell into place.
Absolutely. With me, of course, his parents, being in the business as well, I always had a fond memory of the Perry Mason movies that he did in the 80s. And of course, he got to actually work with his mom in those.
Right.
Of course, she got to reprise her role. And with my grandmother, everything stopped when Perry Mason came on back in the day. And so when they started doing the new movies in the 80s, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, if I was over there and Perry Mason was on, nah, nothing else is going on.
And Mr. Katt played the superior Paul Drake. William Hopper did a good job with what he did. But it was pretty much walk in, smoke a cigarette, sit down, walk out.
Yeah.
William Katt got into some stuff. I mean, there was abductions, there were kidnappings, there was running, fighting. I mean, he was out there. He was the superior Paul Drake.
Yeah, absolutely. But going back, we mentioned Big Wednesday earlier. I definitely had, even though I've never been to Southern California, I definitely had a surf movie phase going on, and Big Wednesday is a big part of that. Because as soon as I found out that John Milius directed that, and I'm a huge Conan the Barbarian fan, I'm like, oh, here we go, Conan guy direct a surf movie, okay. And then of course Williams plays a huge part in that. Was it him, Gary Busey, and Jan Michael Vincent? Is that right? Yeah. And of course, they're babies in that movie. So So,
well, I grew up in Ohio, which is about as far from the ocean as you can get. Landlocked, and I'm deeply old. I'm 70 now. So, but I growing up in the 60s, surf music. I heard Beach Boys. I heard surf music. I bought a paperback book on how to surf in Ohio.
I love it.
In Ohio. Why am I learning how to surf when I've never seen an ocean before in my life? But yeah, the whole surf thing. But I grew up through that whole music phase. I was blessed to have a cousin 4 years older than me. She brought me into rock and roll. It was late 50s. I was 8, 9, 10 years old. I came in at the end of rockabilly, the beginning of folk, the beginning of surf, the beginning of hot rod, long before the British invasion. I mean, I was able to surf through all of that. That was, and
that's the reason why I feel like I was born in the wrong era, because I listen to that now and I love it. And I don't know, just something about that, about the music from your guys' era just hits a totally different part of my spirit than the music does now.
Oh, I understand. It's also, though the music industry was built off of this artistry, it felt a lot more organic than it does now. Because basically, somebody said it before, it's like the kids today figured out all the secrets. So,
and there was effort put into songwriting back then. I mean, some of it was formulaic, some of it was a process, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. But there was an effort put into writing that we lost somewhere along the line.
I agree.
And country music gets a lot of bad rap because of how sad it sounds, and the typical my wife left me and took the dog. But no, that's how I feel about country music. Is there's better songwriting as far as as far as the whole industry goes, and whereas pop music is like it's written by 34 people and there's 1 or 2 words repeated.
And in a studio on auto-tune.
Yeah.
You don't have to be able to sing. We'll fix it.
Well, the funny thing, what I'll always champion about music today is that if you want to hear the feel and the sounds of what, Doug, what you and I experienced in our youth, with different types of music, and Skylar, what you enjoy now, go outside the U.S. Go to Scandinavian countries, go to Europe, Germany, Spain, go to Australia. It's all rock and roll is alive and well all over the world. And a lot of it sounds like our stuff from 20, 30 years ago.
Wow.
I mean, there's a lot that is contemporary, but there's a lot of bands who throw back and want to sound like 80s bands. There's a lot that want to sound like, 70s metal bands and stuff like that. And then as they get older, the 70s metal bands guys are the harder edge stuff. When they get older and their sound softens, now it sounds like 80s AOR, where it's still well-produced stuff, but just a little more poppy.
Yeah.
So yeah, just go outside the U.S. and explore music out there. You're going to find some good stuff. I guarantee.
Oh yeah, I'm not going. Excuse me, clearing my throat. Old man stuff. I'm not going to promote another thing here, but I am honored to be able to do a weekly 2-hour radio show on Monkey Mania Radio.
Oh,
the Monkeys. And because of copyrights, because of Rhino, their ownership, we can't play more than 3 legitimate cuts from an album in 2 hours. We're limited to that. But there is such a groundswell of live stuff, concert stuff, solo stuff that we're able to pull in. And we're pulling in because the Monkeys hit in the 60s. I'm able to pull in 60s stuff. They still were working in the 70s. I pull that in. They did their reunion in 86. I can pull that in. They did all 4 of them reuniting in the 90s. I can pull that in. So, just being able to just share all this wonderful music with people it thrills me. I'm real happy to be doing that.
Oh yeah, well, I'm sure you're probably pulling some like Mike Nesmith's solo stuff outside when he left the Monkeys.
From the First National Band stuff, and
way before I really I guess growing up, I was this 70s 80s kid because I was born in '76. So growing up, the Beatles were always around; they were always a presence or anything like that. Yeah. I didn't really get into them until maybe I was in my 20s, but I was a Monkeys kid because my Aunt Kathy was a hardcore, like she said, forget those Liverpool dudes. I want the Monkeys. So those were her dudes back in the day. And so especially in the 80s where they started making their reunion comeback, you started getting MTV playing the old show and whatnot. That's when I got into them hardcore. And so, and of course, if you become a music geek like I do, and I'm sure you are too, Doug, that you do deep dives. Like, okay, who writes some of these songs? And and then you start feeling, who's this Neil Diamond guy? And
Paul Williams. Paul Williams. He's the guy from Smokey and the Bandit. He wrote this song. What are you talking about?
Oh, I'm a Muppets kid, so he's a Muppets guy. So
I rated my mom's music way back when, and I fell in love with Cher, the Monkeys. I don't know. Like I even fell in love with Johnny Cash back, with listening to my grandma's music.
How do you not?
I don't know. Just music. In certain stages, just has a way of like brightening your mood, and I don't know what it is. Just now it just doesn't have the same feel now. But
and something both Davy Jones and Peter Tork pointed out with the Monkeys, they were hired as actors to play a rock band on a TV show. They Mickey would often talk about, okay, this is like Leonard Nimoy actually becoming a Vulcan. And everybody got tired of that story. Peter begged him not to tell it anymore. He went, no, I got a new one. Have you seen Galaxy Quest? And Peter Tork went,
nice.
Oh my God, that's perfect. Yes, that's exactly what happened. But Davey and Peter both said they hired 2 actors and 2 musicians. What they got was 4 actors and 4 musicians, which lightning in a bottle. How do you capture
I feel like with them becoming a band and actually trying to be a band later on, I think they the studios did them a very big disservice by not allowing them to continue to play their own music.
Right.
And rather than, and they could have done so much with the boy band franchise, even in today's standards, by allowing, say like Lance Bass to play his own instrument.
Well, when they first started filming, they were filming 5 days a week in the studio, rehearsing in the evenings, rehearsing on the weekends to be able to go out on tour whenever they could. And it was still like the fastest film TV show on the air at the time.
Right.
But they did not have time to go into the studio and play. They only had time to go in and sing. Mm-hmm. Even though it really disturbed Mike and Peter. Peter showed up with his guitar and they said, "What'd you bring that for?" The tracks are already done, dude. You're just doing vocals. So the first album they did that way. They were on tour. They were out on the road when the second album got released, and they didn't even know. Somebody had to go to the mall and buy the second album, More of the Monkees, for them to look at, and they were not happy with the song choices that Don Kirshner chose. So there was a bit of a coup, and they won the rights to record from that point on. So their third album, Headquarters, is just them, all them.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a great album, but what something Mike said after they did that, he said, "Okay, we were ready. This was going to be out. We're not good at this. We need a producer. We need somebody else. We need an adult. Can somebody give us an adult, because we're not ready." They were, I think Davey was 18 and Peter was 21 when they started. Those are babies. Those are children.
Yeah.
You can't throw that kind of power at an 18 to 20-year-old and not expect it to blow their minds.
Absolutely. And of course, what I always kind of thought was the sad irony was like, okay, here they make this big effort, to do their own thing and to be push their artistic boundaries just a little bit, not as much as they did on Head,
right?
But definitely, a little more than they have.
Yeah.
And then the Beach Boys have Pet Sounds, and then the Beatles have Sgt. Pepper, and so it's like, okay, sorry to bother you all. Sorry, we're gonna go back over here.
Yeah. And that's something else I wanted to talk to Mr. Katt about, because he recorded. He had a pop album out.
Sure,
I think it was Billy Katt. He was going by Billy Katt at the time. But are we missing him?
It looks like we still don't have any word from him yet. So hopefully he's okay. We're not having any technical difficulties or anything like that. So we're trying to get a hold of him, but something's up here. So we'll just have to just keep treading water for a little while here.
That's right. And I wanted to ask him about, he auditioned for Star Wars. He auditioned for the Luke Skywalker role.
Sure did.
In Star Wars.
Really?
I think he did his screen test with Kurt Russell auditioning for Han Solo.
I didn't know that.
Well,
that could have been a totally different movie.
There's got to be a story in that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, especially, in 76 when they were probably casting for that. Right. I'm sure every actor came out for that. It was another part, as far as they were concerned. They didn't know what that thing was going to become, obviously. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. They thought it was going to be at a theater or drive-in near you movie. They thought it was just another B movie.
Exactly.
They had no idea that it was just going to blow up the way it did.
I can almost see Kurt Russell milking the role for what all it's worth, even if he got it, because Harrison Ford hated playing Han Solo.
Yeah. Well, he hated the Ewoks anyway, but
yeah, he did.
Especially teddy bears in space, he was not happy with. But
just to chime in with some of our questions here, we've got, because of course, we are supposed to be talking about William Katt with William Katt, but we've definitely gone.
We're all over the place.
But Molly Daniels had a question here, since we were talking about the Monkees earlier. What album had Daydream Believer? Does anyone know that?
Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones Limited, I think.
You're close. It was the album before that, The Birds, the Bees, and the Monkees.
Oh.
Yep.
No, Birds, the Bees, and the Monkees was after Pisces, Aquarius.
Okay, so then, it was 1968. So yeah. So when Birds, the Bees, Monkeys. But yeah,
Yeah.
because it was released a single about a year before, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a single long before it was put on the album, but then that was quite common back in the day. So yeah, so there you go. So there you go, Molly. You get a little trivia here. So
we're all caught up now.
Yeah, and I said Kurt and William apparently read together for Star Wars and even swapped roles. So at one point, Kurt Russell read for Luke Skywalker.
Wow,
very interesting.
Something else. Talking about Perry Mason.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
We're going to get back to William Katt at some point, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But talking about Perry Mason, from what Svengoolie, if you can trust Svengoolie said that Raymond Burr and William Hopper, Perry and Paul, were actually hired for each other's roles. That Raymond Burr was supposed to be Paul Drake and William Hopper was supposed to be Perry Mason, and then some last-minute decision flipped them over.
Interesting.
That would have been strange. That would have been bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how they basically Yeah, that's
and I do want to ask him about. I mean, Barbara Hale played Della Street. She was phenomenal, and I think Big Wednesday was the first movie that both Mr. Katt and Barbara Hale did together.
Right.
They eventually did, an episode of Greatest American Hero, and then he came in on the Perry Mason movies. But what's that experience like to work professionally with your mom?
Sure,
throughout your adult life. That there's got to be a story in there.
Yeah, I would think so. And of course, going to obviously one project that we best know him for, The Greatest American Hero.
Right.
Really curious about the impetus of that project. Was he at all a superhero fan, or did he approach this because it's kind of an anti-superhero show?
Right.
So I mean,
and we've all read the reports that his on-screen reaction to seeing the suit the first time was legit. He was just, oh my God, just was not happy with that. And I was thinking that, well, there's a connection with John Ritter right there, because John, in the same time frame, had done Hero at Large, the movie Hero at Large. So he was in an equally ridiculous looking superhero costume. So,
and there's a little similarity to those costumes as well. Heavy on the red and black. So, So, Willow, what's kind of your earliest connection to William Katt with finding his work?
Honestly, I think it's just he's been in and out of TV for decades. So I think it's just, I've watched almost everything that you guys have mentioned. I know I've watched several of the Perry Mason movies. They just kind of blend together. So it's really hard to pick a favorite right now, but like I grew up watching all kinds of stuff, and and Greatest American Hero was just something that like in and out of pop culture mentions in Family Guy and almost everything. Cartoons and movies even today.
And working with Robert Culp, oh man, I love Robert Culp. I was a big I Spy fan. I mean, we're not going to go to the Bill Cosby thing, but that was a wonderful show. That was the best spy show until Chuck came along. Chuck is outstanding as well. But working with Robert Culp, knowing that what a writer he is, what a director he is, and there was rumors that he and Mr. Katt clashed a little bit in the beginning, but that they bonded. They came together. They made it all work. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. What's also kind of interesting for me, if of course he's best known for a lot of his TV work. I mean, if you look at his IMDb, oh my God! Of course, his early career, he was a lot of one-episode stints. Guest stars on things like Emergency and MASH and Gunsmoke, and the list goes on and on.
Right.
But when he really started getting into film work, of course, he got a couple of good spots there. Definitely his role in Carrie, but I gotta love House. I mean,
man, House is wonderful. House is phenomenal.
It definitely can be thrown into the realm of kind of the horror comedy, even though the original House that he was in was definitely more on the horror side, had just a little bit of comedy. But of course, you get to House 2 with Air Gross, and it's all comedy.
and it's such a limited genre. I mean, you can always go back to Abbott and Costello, Meet the Wolfman, and The Raven was one of my favorite comedy horror movies. But House, I mean, and having such incredible comedic actors working with you, having Richard Mall on screen, having now I'm forgetting his name from Cheers. Oh geez.
George Wendt or
George Wendt. George Wendt.
George Wendt was the first one. John Ratzenberger was in the second one.
Right.
Yeah.
That
was a cool connection too, getting two Cheers actors in your franchise.
Yeah.
And something actually I recently learned, I don't know, about a month or so ago. I remember as a kid going to the video store, and video stores, folks, there you go. Going to the video store and seeing House 4. I'm like, House 4?
Yeah.
Where's 3? When did 3 come out? Where did I miss that one? And so, years go by, don't notice it, and until, I was digging around somewhere, doing a deep dive on something else, and found this, that basically the film The Horror Show that starred Lance Henriksen is House 3.
Oh.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Brian, I can't remember he played a tall bad guy. He was in Blade Runner. He was the tell me about your mother guy, and shoots the doctor. That actor.
Yeah.
He's the killer in this movie. And basically what it is that Lance Henriksen's a cop. Brian's killed, and I guess he's put to death or something like that. And then when he basically like his soul or something gets resurrected and starts haunting Lance Henriksen, starts messing with him throughout the movie. But it's got a definite, different, darker feel to the rest of the House movies. Because like you go over to the House 4 and William Katt's back in that one. Roger Collins back. So it's like, it's a very disjointed kind of movie. So I think I realized why when they finally finished it, they, when they decided they were going to release it in the States, like, let's just drop the House thing from it because it really doesn't do with the rest of the franchise. But if you go overseas, it's House 3, The Horror Show. So weird, yeah.
When I was reading up on Mr. Katt, there was one, I mean, it was just a simple little phrase. Piper Laurie was his mentor. Piper Laurie, beautiful, brilliant actress. That was your mentor. I want to hear that. Tell me about that.
Absolutely, yeah. Nancy Johnson's got a comment here saying that, of course, we all know that John Ritter did the first 2 Problem Child films, and William was the lead role in the third, taking over for John's role because he had passed and was doing another project. So, and that is correct, yes. So, yeah, it's kind of a nice connection that the two of them have there. Basically, take over his role for him.
There is a correction on that, though. Unfortunately, Nancy. John Ritter died in 2003. Problem Child 3 came out in 95.
Oh, there you go. So, thank you, Internet and Willow. Thank you.
Sorry, it's what I do. Hey. I'm not trying to be a smart ass.
No. Don't confuse me with facts. I've already made up my mind.
And then Shirley Bergowitz says that every time she does karaoke, she always sings the Greatest American Hero theme. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Believe it or not.
I know. Yeah,
a beautiful song. That's okay. I'm a little concerned. I hope he's all right. Hope everything's.
Well, depending on the time zones, I'm hoping it's just a time zone error. Maybe we'll squeeze them in, and then maybe we'll go a little bit longer.
There we go. Yeah. I'm trying to think what's next I want to bring up. Well, actually, we can even, bring up other topics that aren't necessarily William Katt related here, but. Of course, I love a lot of these.
I mean, we're here for the John Ritter Foundation, so
well, I mean,
yes,
yeah. Then we wanted to talk to him about that. He, going back to Greatest American Hero, he kind of became the caretaker of the franchise. I remember him looking into writing books, doing the reunions, writing comic books. And then he started Catastrophic Comics. He started his own comic book company.
Right.
So, knowing it lasted 3 seasons, I think.
Right.
Greatest American Heroes 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's like 40 some odd episodes. So yeah, it's about 3 seasons. Yeah.
And I'm sure at the time, just like William Shatner said at one point, it's just a TV show. Get a life. I'm sure that everybody goes through that. It was just a job, but feeling the love and the admiration and the affection from people concerning those characters and that whole storyline, it touched me that he actually started to embrace it more as, okay, this is important. This means something to people.
Yeah. There's one movie that's a little, of course, I mean, it's not recent. It was done in 2007, but a little more recent work of his. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with a film called The Man from Earth. Have y'all ever seen that before?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool film. Basically, you've got essentially a man, a professor is kind of having a retirement party with all of his friends or whatever else, and essentially starts revealing to the story to all of his friends and colleagues that he's known for years, sometimes decades, that he's been around for quite a lot longer than the average human being.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like about 10,000, 15,000 years or something like that he's lived. So it's like he's been around for a very, very long time. And so, of course, this revelation of this, of course, bring a lot of drama with his friends. It's a really small kind of very, almost like a play, because everything takes place in this cabin. They're all in here. But you've got a great cast. Of course, William Katt's in the movie. Tony Todd's in the film. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was on Deep Space Nine, the bartender alien guy.
Armin Shimmerman.
Armin.
Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Let me get the
Played
old
Quark.
IMDb.
Armin Shimmerman played Quark. If that's who you're talking about.
I think that's who it was. Let's see here. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, John Billingsley, who was
Dr. Phlox.
Yeah, Dr. Phlox. Yeah. So he's
trying to stump me with Star Trek. Come on.
John Billingsley is our man from Earth in question here. So, but so it's a great role from him. Well, of course, he's done a Star Trek stuff already. But it's a really good role for him because he. He's not in any makeup or not, but he just kind of looks, like a bookish little professor, but you still see his Dr. Phlox character, So, but Man from Earth, pretty sure it is streaming at several different places. You could at least rent it on YouTube or whatever else. But definitely gotta check that one out if you guys haven't yet, or anyone else in the audience here. But let's do a little plug here because, of course, we are here for the Ritter Rally, the John Ritter Aortic Health Foundation here. Of course, you can see on the bottom of your screen here, details. Go to multiversefunraiser.com to donate. And if you do donate, we've got lots of different prize packages and whatever else that people can win. So with a $10 donation or better, you get thrown into the pot there, and there's all kinds of cool swag to win here. Signed objects, just fun little quirky things, comics, all kinds of good stuff here. So definitely donate generously here. Because it is a tremendous foundation here. Amy Yazbek, who Kelly got to interview on Friday night. Of course, this is her foundation, her baby. She was that was a hilarious and amazing interview there. So
she is an amazing woman, and thanks to her that I changed my thing for Cryptic Crunch, because as soon as she said the frogman, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm doing.
The Kappas, I know. That was the thing too. I got a kick out of it. It was like you asked her like, what's her favorite mythical creature or cryptid, and she goes to Kappas. I'm like, the Japanese frauds. Like, oh my god, that's an obscure one. There, it's like, okay, cool.
I'll have to touch on that one on a later date where I can actually do more research. But the frogman one was just, it was just a quick story. Some people saw something. It ended up being a giant lizard without a tail.
Yeah. Of course, if you ever decide to do a episode on the Poplick monster or the Goat Man, as he's also known from Kentucky, that's my homeboy. So.
When I used to be hosting the Q&As in Metropolis, Illinois. Tiny town.
Oh yeah.
But in 1972, they realized we're the only city in America named Metropolis. Let's contact DC Comics and say, can we call ourselves Superman's hometown? And in 72, nobody cared. And they said, sure. So Metropolis, Illinois, tiny little town, Superman Museum, big statue. But they have the Superman celebration every second weekend in June. And I have hosted several Q&As for the celebrities that show up. One of my favorite Q&A questions is, who is the most famous person in your phone right now? And will you call them and put them on speakerphone so we can all say hi? That 50% of the time, it works all the time. But that and asking, who was the practical joker on your set?
Yeah.
Because there's always one. There's always one.
The ironic thing about Metropolis, Illinois, not a single comic book store.
Oh, no. No theater, no mall.
How the heck does that? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it is a small town, but you would think they'd at least have a comic book store.
Right. Well,
is that is that the town where Footloose was filmed?
We're Superman's hometown, but no Superman comics exist here.
It's 10 minutes from Paducah, Kentucky. That's where everybody goes to shop. There's no movie theater in Metropolis. There's no mall. There's some grocery stores, some restaurants. There's the museum, and pretty much that's it.
That's about it. Yeah.
Everybody just drives 10 minutes down the road to Paducah to do everything. But yeah, it's amazing. It's more like Smallville than it is Metropolis. But
yeah, that's the ironic thing there. You would think that somebody years ago would have okay, that's a cash cow right there. Come on,
But they do have a Harrah's Casino. So they've got that right there on the river. There's a huge Harrah's Casino right there in the middle. No mall, no theater, but a Harrah's Casino.
I don't know, man. That sounds like a Luthor plot right there. He bought Smallville and put in a casino.
That's right. Cream corn capital of the world, no more. We're going casino.
Well, I mean, you know how he loves his real estate plots from all the films there like that. So, we're going, yeah. Oh, God.
Okay,
well,
it's oceanfront property, not beachfront, but it's oceanfront. It's cool enough.
It works. Yeah. Yeah. But of course, for those tuning in here, we were supposed to interview William Katt today for the Multiverse FunRaiser here, or at least Doug was. And apparently we must have had a miscommunication somewhere, or we're on slow time, or hopefully he's okay. Maybe he had better.
Sorry, you're just here watching us shoot the shit.
Exactly.
Until the next panel.
Yeah, we are
Who are
for
these
another
three
15
people?
minutes
What's
here.
going on here?
But we could at least have time to plug ourselves here, of course. I am part of the Back of the Silver Box Network myself. My name is George Bueller. I'm host of Fanatic Forum every Friday at 7, streaming live on here. And Willow, you're also one of our hosts here.
Yes, I am the host of Cryptid Crunch on every other Sunday evening, and also co-host of the Back of the Cereal Box with John Pyka, Dee Barty, and Sarah Jenkins.
And then Doug, of course, you're a Cereal Box adjacent fandom here, so please plug yourself as well.
I'm a retired elementary school teacher who has a Monday through Friday radio show from 12 to 2 on Monkey Mania Radio, on Live 365. We're on Roku. We're all over the place. We're Streama. I think we're on TuneIn now. We're expanding. We're getting up there in numbers. But I go by the name Unca Duck.
Unca Doug.
Unca Duck. D-U-C-K.
Unca Duck. Okay.
And the story behind that. Back in college, I was dating a beautiful young woman who had a beautiful small son. Tiny little guy. Being the South, I'm in Tennessee. I'm in East Tennessee. I'm in the Bible. I'm in the buckle of the Bible Belt. But because it's the South, you don't usually let your children call adults by their first name. There has to be a Mr., a Miss, or something like that.
Some sort of formality, yeah.
Right. So she thought, you can call him Uncle Doug. That'll be cool. Uncle Doug. Well, he was not familiar with either one of those words. And his tang got tangled up from time to time. And it just came out Unca Duck.
Unca Duck.
So when this radio thing came along about 1.5 years ago, I was looking at, saying Doug Hubler. If you say it fast, it sounds like Keebler, Doug Hubler. No, see that, So, looking for something, an identity, an identification. Unca Duck came back to me, so now I've got boxes of rubber ducks everywhere. I've got duck stuff everywhere. It kind of got out of control, but so if you get a chance, come listen to some music from the Monkeyverse.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm gonna have to check that out. And see, and if you ever decide to do a different radio show, you could be Disco Duck. Yeah. Yeah, if that's not right, well, that may be taken.
Of course, I think he'd have to pay Rick Dees for usage of that.
Yeah, we don't want to get into that area. I mean, Ray Parker Jr. already had to pay off Huey Lewis, so let's not go there.
So let's see. We've still got about another 10 minutes or so. We can discuss some other stuff here. So one thing, of course, I've more recently going into some more recent stuff here. I talked on Friday night about the Last of Us series that's on HBO Max.
I want to see that.
It is amazing. Being as someone who played the video games, both of them, it's, I would say, probably a near perfect adaptation of anything that I've ever seen, whether it be a film, book, whatever else. Wow. They've made a couple of minor changes to the story, but overall, they're sticking very close to it and treating it very seriously. So it's
good.
Yeah, one thing I've kind of compared this to is like a lot of people immediately want to think Walking Dead sort of thing. It's like there would be some similarities, but I would more equate this to Cormac McCarthy's The Road.
Okay.
Where it's much more steeped in reality. The world itself is a lot darker because of this event that happened. And then it's very emotional.
And Chris Pratt is not doing a voice.
Chris Pratt.
He's not doing Mario. Oh, jeez.
Okay, let's touch on the Mario thing here, because I'm not a huge Mario fan.
Right.
I mean, I grew up with the games, stuff like that, but my nephew is, of course, much more the fandom. But why did they go for a celebrity? I mean, I can understand they use a lot of celebrities in the movie, but a lot of them are comedians and they've done voice acting.
Yeah.
So they're familiar with doing voices. They're capable of doing that. Then you get Chris Pratt, who, okay, he's a name, yes.
Yeah.
He has done comedy, yes, but he's not a traditional voice actor.
No.
And can't really do an Italian accent.
No, not really.
Yeah. I mean, that movie looks beautiful.
Oh,
and from what I've heard, a lot of the other voice actors sound great. Like I think Keegan-Michael Key is Toad, which is awesome. Jack Black's doing Bowser. So from what I've heard, those sound great. But it's like, your lead is doing almost offensive accent, one would say.
It has triggered a few people.
I mean,
we had some pretty bad representation of Mario in the past, so I guess this is sort of a step up.
Well, that's the ironic thing too. Is like Charles Martinet has done the voice for Mario for 30 some odd years. Like, you couldn't have hired him.
Yeah,
he's a little bit cheaper than Chris, and you wouldn't have had anywhere near the controversy.
Right? Yeah.
It's like when they get celebrities to portray the chipmunks, and it's like, why? You're just going to speed up their voice, and nobody's going to know that it's actually them, except in the credits.
Your stunt casting is better off as whoever's playing Dave, and they got Jason Lee at the time. Was popular coming off of the My Name Is Earl show. It's like, okay, we know who that guy is.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I think Zachary Levi came in and played Dave one time, Dave Seville.
Yeah, I believe he did. Yeah. So we got one comment we got to bring up here. Shirley Berkowitz asking, "Where is William Katt?" That's a question we've been asking ourselves for the last 40, 50 minutes, unfortunately. So, we were supposed to have William Katt here to interview, and something happened. We don't know yet. Our producers backstage have done every measure they can to contact Mr. Katt, but unfortunately, we've not been able to touch base. So, apologize for that, folks.
Of course, all those measures were day drinking. So you do what you can. I mean, that's it's Sunday. Everybody's day drinking on Sunday, right?
Yeah, sure. It's it's the sacrament. It's the blessed day. Come on,
Look at that.
Actually, Kristen Marie's coming in saying Zachary Levi was Dave's cousin or something. Yeah, you're right. I think he was. Yeah.
But he was in the movie.
Yeah, he was in the movie nonetheless.
He was with the Chipmunks, so.
Yeah.
Our producers say they used tin cans as well. So literally every measure of communication, email, phone, tin cans, smoke signals. We got a couple of psychics backstage,
whatever works, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a Ouija board if that helps. Anyway,
I mean, I know somebody that's got carrier pigeons, so we can work some carrier pigeons in there. I don't know. Flags. We've been using flags as well.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how you do the Vulcan mind meld on yourself, but
there's got to be some kind of Vulcan, trick.
There's got to be. I mean,
Or either that, or what was Deanna Troy's race, where they were all the
Betazoid.
Betazoids, yeah. So they're all maybe we could tap into William's emotions. Maybe he's feeling forlorn that he couldn't show up today. So, but again, once more, we got to plug of course, the reason why we are all here this weekend for the Multiverse FunRaiser here. This is for the Ritter Rally for the John Ritter Aortic Health Foundation. We are raising money this weekend here, and we've been doing a great job too. I tell you, I've been really proud of the Cereal Box Network and everybody that's worked on this here with the amount of money that we've raised here and the awareness and whatnot for the basically for aortic health itself. Of course, we lost John many years ago, to this, heart disease sucks. Let's just put it that way. Heart disease sucks. And there's just so much that's, we have figured out, so much we haven't figured out. My wife, she also has heart disease. It's hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So that's, a lot of athletes end up passing away from this because essentially it's your one half of your heart. The walls are a little bit thicker than the standard, so it has to basically beat twice as fast or sometimes 3 times as fast just to be normal. So that's an unfortunate thing there. But so there's all sorts of heart disease that are misdiagnosed. That's of course what happened to John. Everybody thought he was having a heart attack, and now it was something it was close, but yeah, there. So we are raising money for that cause, and for prevention of heart disease, whatever else here. So go to multiversefunraiser.com. You can donate generously there, but every $10 donation or better gets you put into our prize package drawings. We've got lots of prize packages you can see on the website there. All sorts of cool swag in there. We've got comic books, signed stuff. I think we've got some DVDs in there as well. I mean, I'll just what have you. There's a laundry list of stuff in there. One of our hosts, Krayley, who does these awesome Pokeball dioramas, one of hers is involved with the packages. So if you got a Pokemon fan in your life there, that would be something really cool. So yeah, all sorts of wonderful stuff here. So I see Kelly down here in the bottom here hanging out. So
Hello.
Hey Kelly, how you doing?
Good. You guys did a great job filling this hour. It's hard to have to talk unexpectedly for an hour.
Oh, that's okay. We enjoyed tap dancing on a Sunday afternoon.
It's what we do.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Kelly, who's coming up next?
Well, we have author Kerry Schafer, who also writes under the pen name of Carrie Ann King. We're very excited for her. And Willow, and hopefully Keisha's going to be able to get her computer working, get her computer resurrected.
Mm-hmm.
Willow and Keisha will be interviewing Carrie. So we're very excited. I'm just watching for when Carrie pops up.
Yeah, we've had a lot of weather in certain parts of the country here. Here in Kentucky, we got just rain, but a little further north, everybody got like a few inches of snow. And I know Keisha was concerned in her area, but they've got a lot of weather as well. So,
well, where are you? Where are you, George?
I'm in Elizabethtown. Yeah. So, I grew up in Louisville, but I've been living in Elizabethtown for nearly 20 years now. So, and I have the pleasure of being able to walk to work because I work at a comic book store that's right downtown called Clyde Comics. So if you're in the Elizabethtown area, folks, come check us out. We've got a lot of books. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I'm getting in the car.
Yeah. Or Doug, if you're on the Whatnot channel or Whatnot app, we also have a page on there as well. We do auctions a few days a week. So if you don't want to get in the car and want to be able to shop at Clyburn Comics, you can get on Whatnot and hear my lovely voice a few days a week.
How can you go wrong?
Yeah. Get to shill books to people for a few days a week. That's not too bad thing there. So let's see here. Oh, I was just looking at some of our comments that had come up here. So
yeah, I was looking and said multiple attempts were made to get in touch with Mr. Katt. We hope everything is okay.
Yeah. So our producer Kristen here brought that up. Yeah. So yeah, we're sorry, folks. We something happened. A wire was crossed somewhere. But so unfortunately we didn't get William Katt in today here. But that's okay because we got some other stuff coming up here. Of course, we got just a few more hours left on the old fundraiser here.
So,
yes, we do.
So the weekend was going good until I showed up. That's what you're
basically,
me, right?
Basically. Come on, Doug.
I didn't want to point that out, Doug, because we've had such a lovely hour here. But
water's what I do. It's what I do.
Wet, sky's blue, and Doug blows things up, man.
Fluff my magnificent mane.
Yeah, that is an impressive mane there. I gotta say. So yeah. Oh man. So let's see here. So we got a couple of minutes left here. So anybody got any cool stuff coming up they want to talk about? Willow, you have any topics for Cryptid Crunch for next week?
Well, I might touch on the Kappas, but if anybody wants to join in on a chat with us for Cryptid Crunch, you're welcome to come on and tell us what your experiences with either monsters or ghosts or aliens.
Hashtag save the squonks. Maybe we can get Amy on for a squonks episode and talk about
how would be fun.
Our planned quest for squonks, because we're gonna save the squonks. Okay.
I think that's going to happen there. So yeah, everybody tune in. If you have not checked out Willow Show Cryptid Crunch, I mean, if you're into like mythical creatures, cryptozoology, just weird little creepy crawly things, or just stories about that stuff, Legends of Tall Tales, check out Willow Cryptid Crunch, man. That's some fun stuff. And
just a warning, we don't take ourselves serious, so it's more of a tongue-in-cheek kind of look inside the whole cryptid creatures. And I'm not so much of a believer when it comes to a lot of these monsters myself, so I just kind of laugh at the cheesy pictures that are out there.
Yeah, if you want the little more of the serious take on the horror stuff there, check out Ice Cream Queens on Sundays here in the Cereal Box Network here. They get a little, they do a little more tongue-in-cheek stuff too, but they do get a little more serious talking about their creepy stuff as well.
Yes.
So.
And they are on tonight at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yep, they're closing out the show for us. Well, with a bit of a break, I guess. Bit of a break. Yeah, they're going to be closing out the night with us officially here. So
their after show is
that's
a good
right.
way to put it.
The after party. Yeah, there you go.
And can I just say, if you have never seen an Ice Cream Queens episode, tune in tonight. The Ice Cream Queens are glorious. They're all goddesses. I love them. I'm obsessed with them, and you won't regret watching.
Yeah, their topics go from horror movies. They do cosplays, talk a lot about that. They talk about true crime stuff. So pretty much anything creepy they want to talk about. And then of course sometimes it gets into complete, depravity of cute stuff and whatever else. So it's not just a creep fest either. So those ladies have a good time. Oh, we got a guest coming up here. All right.
Oh, yes.
Well, it's about time for us to hand over to the next panel here, Kelly. So I'm going to go ahead and play our video here we've got talking about donations and whatnot for the Ritter Rally. But Doug, thank you very much for coming in here.
Thanks for letting me be here.
And Willow,
I didn't get much done, but thanks for letting me join you.
You know what? We had ourselves a nice little dance session over here for an hour or so. So yeah, I appreciate you coming in here.
Hey, we bonded over the monkeys, so I'm happy.
There you go. And Willow, thank you very much for helping us tap dance as well.
No problem.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
You all take care. We're going to play this little video for you. And then next up here, we got Kelly with our next guest here.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says Donate Here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
All right. So before I introduce our guests and drop out, I just want to say that we're at 40% of our fundraising goal. We've got $800 raised, and there's still time to donate and get your entry in for our sweepstakes to win fabulous prizes. To get your entry in, there's a little extra step where you got to send your receipt to phoenixescosplay@gmail.com. So if you've already donated, send that on to us. And now I'm going to bring on author Kerry Schafer, who also writes under Carrie Ann King. And then I will let Willow have the screen. So
you're welcome to join in on the conversation if you're.
Welcome, Carrie.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'm having fun here. I have a green screen and I'm noticing that it turned my hair green today, which is new. So I don't.
It's a good look on you.
Oh,
It's
you.
a good look on you.
I'll go with it.
I like the background though. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So, Kerry, please tell us about yourself.
Okay, wow, that's an open-ended question.
I'm so sorry.
Let me see. I can tell you, I live in the middle of a forest on 40 acres with an actual real life Viking, and I write books. So that's really kind of pretty much it.
Awesome. So Keisha, you're welcome here.
I'm sorry I'm running a couple minutes late, guys.
That's
It's
okay.
been a day. So, but hi. I'm Keisha Acuff. I've read a bunch of your books.
Yay.
And I think they're wonderful. So, yeah. Let's see. What did you guys all get to before I?
She just joined the conversation, so I just had her introduce herself to everyone, and we hadn't really gotten started with any of the questions yet. So,
Okay, beautiful. So, Willow, did you have any questions you would like to ask?
I'm curious about your new book. Please tell us about your new book. I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at this today.
Not bad. It's one of those things. So the new book, which you can kind of see up here, is called Improbably Yours. It's a Carrie Ann King book. I write as both Carrie Ann King and Kerry Schafer. Improbably Yours is about a young woman who is set on a course that a lot of people might think is like really totally awesome in their heart's desire, but it is not for her. So she's about to accept a job that she really doesn't want in a high power position, and she's about to get an offer of marriage. A little bird has told her from a man she's not sure that she's really in love with anymore, and she's really feels like she's stuck in this life. And then at the big family 30th birthday party in the backyard that she is not also really excited about, this little guy comes in. He's a balloon man. He's got a bouquet of balloons and a package, and he sings her a song that was her deceased grandmother's favorite song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, delivers the package, and it is from something that her grandmother left for her, even though her grandmother has been dead many years ago. Sends her off on this little quest to find something on an island that we don't think even really exists, but it does. And her whole life changes from there. So that's the setup for Improbably Yours. There's a treasure hunt. There's an island in the San Juans. There's a little romance. There's a little bit of magic.
I have noticed that as Carrie Ann King, you write a lot about finding like a true love. So let me see. Sorry, I gotta check my notes because I don't want to mess anything up. But there we go. So a couple of my favorites that I have actually read by you are Other People's Things and Whisper Me This, both by your Carrie Ann King. And I have noticed that throughout them, there is a theme of, you know, they're with the wrong person, or they were with the wrong person in the past and they haven't really found true love yet, or anybody decent really. Most of the people, I realize that most of the guys in your story that start out, I'm like, I would punch that guy in the face. I was like,
and yet, you know, we all have friends who are with that guy, right? Like really smart, intelligent women who are somehow.
Hallelujah. One of my friends just actually left her. She just had a child not too long ago, but she finally had enough courage to leave her drug-using, abusive husband, and she is living her life. She is in a women's shelter right now, but I am just so glad that she was able to get out of there because, yeah, like you said, everybody knows that friend that is in that relationship that they do not need to be in.
Right.
And like, I noticed that that's a kind of a common theme throughout your books, is like, there's these great women, but they're all with the wrong people.
I would take that a little step further, in that what I see is the book's really being about is women who don't really know who they are yet.
Yes.
Which is
They
why
find
they're
themselves and then eventually find who they're supposed to be with through finding themselves.
Right. And once we know who we are, then it's easy to find that relationship that actually works. It's like, I'm a mental health counselor, also licensed. And one of the things that I know about relationships is relationships based on I need you, therefore I love you, don't work out that well. Yeah. But if it's one, I love you and therefore I need you, that's a whole different sort of a thing, if you think about it that way. But
Also, I did notice that most of the guys that they end up being with are like firemen, or what is his name in, I'm trying to think of what his name is. Hawk, like he's the private investigator.
Hawk is a private investigator.
And then, Tony in Whisper Me This. Like, I've noticed that they're all generally like kind of good, upstanding. Like, they all have that sense of authority figure, I feel.
I think probably they tend to very likely be based on, I was going to say on My Viking, but it's interesting. I think as women, we kind of imprint on our fathers, unfortunately for some of us, and fortunately for me. And so it's always this either trying to move away from that early relationship that was not good and damaged us, or trying to find people that are in some ways the same. So my father, his nickname was Mr. Big. He wasn't fat, but he was very tall. He was a large, strong, but very kind. Always very kind. I don't think he ever yelled at me. I adored my father.
I noticed that they're they're very soft spoken. Unless it's coming to, like, if somebody is threatening the female lead in the book, they're like, no, but past that, they're very soft spoken.
Well, in those two books, they are. In Improbably Yours, our hero in Improbably Yours is not soft spoken. He's actually kind of blustery and grumpy, but there's a soft side to him that we get to discover.
Did you tell us when it was coming out again?
Oh, it's already out. It came out in the end of October, actually.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, I do not have that one yet. I have several of your books. Actually, quite a few. I have a book obsession. So the recent one that I had been reading was Dead Before Dying, which actually Kristen was like, that one is by Schafer.
That's my Kerry Schafer self, yeah.
But there is a stark difference between like genres, I feel. But that's the one that I've been working on. I have a list of everything on my phone because I can't remember everything to save my life. But I did Whisper Me This, Closer Home, Everything You Are, Other People's Things. And then I have a couple other ones somewhere lying. So I was like, I'm a bookaholic. So when Kristen was like, hey, can you do this? And I was like, yes. I need all the things. So I just started ordering and reading, and so I've been binging a lot of your books recently. But Kristen said that she's also a big fan, and she was sending me all of the titles that I still need to look up and buy to get. So like that being said, I did want to ask you, how many books do you actually have at this point?
In total, there are 13 that are in print, and along with 3 novellas. So I guess that makes 16 total. And then one of those series books, like the the ones that you're reading, the Kerry Schafer books, the Shadow Valley books. The first two of those were published by a small press initially, and then I republished them. So that was an adventure. And if you're looking for the between books, hold off, because those are going to be coming back out in a special Kerry Schafer edition here coming up very shortly, which is super fun.
That's
It is
nice.
10 year anniversary. I got the rights back, and I'm putting them back out as myself. So, yeah,
So how long have you been
how long have I been? Sorry, you broke up a bit.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'm having internet issues. How long have you been writing?
I've been writing for, well, ever, really, since before you were born. I'm pretty sure. So long time. Been writing a long time. My first book was published, however, in 2013. So I'm coming up on 10-year anniversary with the first book between the end of January. So that's pretty exciting.
So what actually got you into writing?
I loved books from the time I was a very, very small child. My mother tells me that I used to recite my favorite book to people.
I used to do that too. My favorite book was about a bunny. It's not easy being a bunny. And my dad thought I was just the smartest little kid on the planet because I knew it verbatim. And then he realized that I just memorized the book.
He thought you were reading.
I was reading at a really young age, and I was like, oops. And then he realized that one day when I picked it up upside down. And I was reading the book upside down. So he was like, oh. And I was like, darn, I've been caught.
That's great. My very first one was The Pokey Little Puppy, which is interesting because it was actually about kind of a bratty little puppy that liked to break the rules, but still managed to be loved and fed every day when he made his way home through the hole in the fence. So.
Willow, did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
I'm just curious, what got you into writing romance?
Okay, so I'm going to say that I don't consider myself as a romance writer. For starters, they're women's journey books, so they're kind of like a psychological growth story. They have romantic subplots. So here's what happened. Honestly, this is the honest to God story because this is how things go in publishing, and I don't mind telling the truth. So my first book, Between, was fantasy. I adored fantasy. That was my first love. I honestly, when I read, I tend to read fantasy and mysteries, thrillers. I love these things very much. The fantasy books, I wrote 2 books of a trilogy. I was with Penguin Random for my first books, and they decided they weren't selling well enough, so they ditched the series with 1 book to go. So that was my first book that I did indie because I had to finish the trilogy. And then I started the Paranormal Mysteries, but they also didn't have any like big people wanting to buy them. So my agent, who's very smart, said, I think you might be able to do really well writing women's fiction. And I honestly at the time said, what's that? Sorry, I didn't know. So I had to do some research and read some women's fiction books. And it's like, oh, I can read that. I can do that. That's psychological journeys. I'm a counselor. I've had all these interesting experiences with people during the years. I can do that. So then the publisher wanted me to take a different name. That's how Carrie Ann King came to be. So I love books that are about a growth journey, somebody finding their way to a better a more who they were meant to be, but I also do love romantic subplots. So you will find a little bit of romance in all of my books, but it's never what actually drives the action.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I need to clarify that, lest anybody's looking for straight up romance.
Somebody that does like romance, there is enough romance like in the books to kind of like for my taste, I'm like, okay, it doesn't go too far. But it's still in there, which is always nice because, I don't know. I like reading that kind of stuff. But I also did find a commonality of in your books, there are a lot of like mysteries as to what happened in their childhoods, and they're trying to figure out like what happened So they're like, okay, they either got adopted out, or their families were split, or they don't actually know who their family is. And there's always that little bit of a mystery that you leave in there. I feel like you only answer it at the exact end. Like you wait until all the way at the end, and then you're like, oh, this is what happened. And I'm like, it's good. Don't get me wrong.
Have to keep you reading.
That's true. I mean, I would honestly have kept reading, but I was like, man, you took the whole thing to. I wanted to know. It took that long to know, but I honestly love your writing. So
thank you.
It's actually pleasurable to read. It's very nice.
This is good. I would hate for you to have been through, books full of misery. That's actually every writer's worst nightmare. When I first started, I used to hate asking people to read for me because I'm like, they're gonna hate it. They're gonna suffer. It'll be horrible.
So I am actually an author as well. I don't have as many books as you. I've got six out. Yeah, something like that. And most of mine are anthology. But yes, the fear of asking people to read your book is awful.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'll sit there and I'll be like, yeah, I have a book. So I actually have my book here. I was on the indie author yesterday, so I have all my books here. But this is my book, and I'm like, they're like, what's it about? And I was like, I don't know how to.
That's so hard, isn't it?
They're like, well, you're the one that wrote it. Don't you know what it's about? And I'm like, yes, I know what it's about. But explaining it to you is going to it's a lot harder than people think. They're like, well, just give me a little synopsis. And I'm like, that's a lot of effort.
It is. That's one of the hardest things, really, is to take all of that work you've done, all the world building and the characters and the plots and the subplots and all of the stuff, and then break it down into one little.
I had to have my editor help me with my synopsis for the back of the book because I was like, I have no idea. I was like, so she helped me write it because I was like, I may have written the book, but I have no idea what to write about the book. So, oh, sorry, I'm trying to catch up on all of the comments and stuff like that over here.
It's okay. Phoenix Sisters cosplay with coming up with an elevator pitch is tough. Do you have any suggestions for that, Kerry?
Good question.
What I've come to over the years is really, first off, I'm terrible for plotting, and I've been forced to over the years sometimes with book contracts to actually deliver a synopsis before I write the book. It always changes drastically by the end. But when the book is over, I find if I can go back to what was that seed of an idea that spawned the book in the first place, usually the elevator pitch is in there somewhere. And so I sit down, usually I just kind of start jotting down the main points of the story that I would want, if I was the reader, that I would want to know, that might make me pick up the book. So I start jotting those things down, and I keep playing with it. It takes a long time to write an elevator pitch, I find, or a good back cover copy is really time consuming to do well for all those reasons, because you really have to kind of get rid of all of the subplot things. You have to focus in on what really matters, what is the main point. It's kind of like a 911 call. Really, it's like you call 911 and you can't tell them everything. Well, I walked in and I found the guy and he was lying there, and then I checked him and to see if you don't start there. There's somebody down here and he's barely breathing and he's bleeding and I need an ambulance right now. Here's the address, right? So it's kind of like that, I guess, if that helps. I don't have any easy magic solutions, though.
So you said that a lot of the male characters that you write about or the good male characters, sorry, that you write about are based off of your Viking. So are any other elements in your book kind of based off of things around you or things that you have experienced either through yourself or through others?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable, really, especially if you're writing the kind of things that I write as Carrie Ann King, those real life stories. How can you write something like that if you haven't experienced some of the things? And I think you don't have to experience everything. I, for example, have never been in a situation of domestic violence. I've been extremely fortunate that way. However, I have been, like I said, a mental health counselor, and I've worked in crisis mental health as well. And I've heard so many stories from so many women, which really was what drove Whisper Me This. I really just needed to help some of those people be seen, and to maybe help others who don't get that to understand how that happens. How does a strong, healthy woman get caught up into a situation like that? So I think if you've been through anything, we've all experienced grief, we've all experienced loss, we've all been hurt, we've all been betrayed. So when you're writing stories, mine, they're all pretty fictionalized, but I do draw on those elements. How did it feel if I'm writing about a death? How did it feel when someone that I loved died? And how would then my character react to that? Because she's going to take it differently than I did, or he did, or he, hopefully, because I'm not writing myself really in any of these stories.
We have thank you for giving them a voice, Kristen says.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. That was, I think, one of my favorite letters that I ever got from a reader, was somebody who emailed me and said, for the first time in my life, I actually feel heard. And that was after Whisper Me This. And that made, everything in publishing, writing, all of that really worthwhile, for sure.
But also, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I did notice that in Whisper Me This, not only did the main character have kind of an interesting past, but her love interest, Tony, is that what it is? Okay, he had a pretty messed up childhood,
also,
and so it's nice. I don't want to say it's nice, but it's nice to have a male representative, that males go through that sort of thing as well.
They do.
Because a lot of the time, most of the people focus on the women going through the hardships. And it was nice to be able to get that little bit of, hey, we're not the only ones that have to deal with abuse and neglect and all that other stuff. I don't want to give too much, for those of you that haven't read the books, I don't want to give away too much information, because there's a lot to unpack there.
Right. Well, and I think that was important to me. I think I was kind of struck by when I, as a mental health counselor, as I began to discover how prevalent it is, actually, even with domestic partner abuse, how many men are abused by their wives physically. It's really rather alarming, and they don't report because it's, considered unmanly or weak, or we try to make light of it because the women are weaker, and yet it's actually a very common problem. So a lot of people don't know about that. And although that wasn't, Tony's issue, it's something that I do like to kind of put out there for the world to be aware of.
Yes. It's always good to, like Kristen said earlier, it's giving these people a voice. Yeah. Even if they are just fictional people, there's people out there in the real world that are going through a lot of the same circumstances and things that the people throughout your books go through.
Right. And it's really fun to do that. One we haven't talked about at all is I Wish You Happy, which is the story of a woman who's a profound introvert, not only an introvert, but an empath. So she feels other people's emotions so strongly that she prefers to be with animals, and kind of, as the book begins, is a bit of a, social recluse. But I've had people write to me about that book also, thanking me for putting that out there, because it's something that they didn't feel that anybody would ever understand, that they felt that way. So it's always amazing to me when I just dive into a book and the character takes over. they know things that I don't know, and they understand things that I don't understand, and this sort of mystical, magical thing happens, and stuff gets into the book that I maybe didn't even know, but the character did. So that's always fun, especially when it actually does really connect with somebody, a reader out there in the world.
So what is your favorite like genre? I know you said that you preferred some things that other people were like, so you kind of changed a little bit. But what would you like right now? What is like pulling on your heartstrings to write about?
I have all of these ideas. So my really happy place that I'm working towards is kind of a fusion of Kerry Schafer and Carrie Ann King brand. So as I said, my books are always going to have mystery in them, but I like a bit of magic. So whether that's magical realism or fantasy, I'm kind of trending toward magical realism these days. But then I also like the mystery. I love quirky characters and it's some just general weirdness. So kind of bringing those things together. I have an idea I'm not ready to talk about yet that I'm really excited about exploring more when I finish the book that I'm currently writing.
And do you have like a decompression stage in between writing, or do you find yourself going into another book while writing the current book?
For a while there, I was actually writing 2 books a year, one Kerry Schafer and one Carrie Ann King. There was a moment in time where my Viking said, please, can we not do that again? It was difficult. I was working full time at the time too. So anyways, I think it varies. Sometimes I need a little decompression. Sometimes books are really talking to me and I am playing with 2 at once. I don't ever go very long without writing something. I need to be writing in a week or 2 and I start getting really, really miserable and impossible to get along with. So
I hear you. Got to keep yourself busy. Yeah, I hear you.
Music kind of is an outlet to kind of just like basically it's your form of art to kind of decompress and put your feelings and thoughts into, rather than just letting everything come out not so good.
Yeah, there is that. I used to be into music though, and even then, even when I was doing music, I still needed to be writing. And I don't know. There's something about it. I feel, I guess, kind of almost driven, called something. Writing is what I feel I'm here to do. And if I'm not doing it, no matter how much else I'm accomplishing, I always feel like I'm not doing anything. So I could do a gazillion projects in a day and accomplish a whole bunch of stuff and mark it all off the list. And at the end of the day, if I haven't written, I still tend to feel like as a slacker and feel a little empty. And so that's just something weird, I guess, about me that I've learned over the years. So I'm always writing something. And really, honestly, I have so many things I want to write right now. It's crazy. And I have to finish this book that I'm writing right now, which is a slow moving book. And it's not that I have to finish it. I do love it, but it's taking its time. I want to do a sequel to Other People's Things. Actually, I want to do a spin-off series to Other People's Things. It's a mystery series where
I would love that.
I know. Where the
like
2 of them
power.
What? Sorry?
I felt like it was a superpower. So for those of you that don't know the book itself, but she kind of has like this sixth sense on where things belong.
Yes, which unfortunately for her often means that they don't belong where she finds them. And since they're things that belong to other people, she feels compelled to move them and often finds herself in a great deal of trouble legally and socially because of moving objects.
Yes. So I would, do all the books, because I would I would read every single one of those.
I got a lot of requests, interestingly enough, to write a spinoff from other people's things, and I thought it would be really fun. It can be the detective agency, Hawk's detective agency. It's already all set up. His mother works with battered women as an attorney. They've got this whole network of great characters that I can bring back, and we could play off that. And I do plan to do that. And I have another book that is really talking to me, and I haven't decided if it'll be a standalone or if I might just make it into a cozy mystery series. So that's happening. And then I want to write another book in the Shadow Valley series. And there's so many books, so little time.
So does that mean you kind of prefer writing as Schafer instead of King? Because I know that Schafer tends to lean towards more of the paranormal realm than any of the King books. Like, you can slightly taste it in the King books. Like, there's a little bit of like that mystery element and stuff like that in there. But then your Schafer books are like just
there is. And probably yours also brings in a little bit more magic. Other people's things had that little touch of magic in it, I think. But I think I just want to write as me. I hit a point where I don't like having it be this or that. I just want to. I call myself the queen of the misfit book. I should put that out there. I've always loved genre crossing as a reader and as a writer. Those tend to be my favorite books as readers, actually, that kind of go all over the place as far as genre goes and kind of thumb their nose at the rules. What? Sorry?
I said, boy, do I have a book for you then. I consider my latest book, it's like a horror romance. And people are like, is that a thing? And I'm like, yeah, of course it's a thing.
It's a thing.
But
it is now.
But yes. So, but that's actually pretty cool. I love the fact that you're moving towards just writing as you rather than having to split your personality, that's no fun.
No, it's not just, it's time consuming too. I had 2 websites for a while, and I just finally was like, you know what, I'm done with that. So my website now is just all things Kerry, and I have everything all in one place because I got, I'm tired of that dichotomy there. If I do the spinoff for other people's things, I think I'm going to put it out as under both my names, actually. So that would be fun. By Kerry Schafer and Kerry Ann King. Because I could do that.
Yeah, you are the writer, so do whatever you want.
Well, when you're publishing your own, and I would be publishing my own if I did those. So yeah, there you go. Otherwise, if you're with a publisher, you kind of have to do whatever they want. It does not.
Yeah. It's never fun when you're with I mean,
it's fun.
It's fun, but they have a lot more say over what goes on, and I like to do my own thing. So I feel that.
It's fun to have control, but there's something to be said for the nice advance and everything too. It's like, and I like the team. One thing I do love about traditional publishing is you do have a team, and I do like that. If you have a good editor and a copy editor and cover designer that you're working with, that is really awesome, and I do very much enjoy that when that's in place, I have to say.
Oh, good. That was actually my next question. Was do you find yourself sometimes hitting butting heads with your editors or your publisher over stories?
That has happened.
But sounds like you have it.
That has happened. I've been very fortunate at Lake Union. I was with an amazing editor. She's retired, which is very sad. Well, not retired. She went off to do her own thing. She's doing her own editing now, but she was amazing, and we worked really well together, and she always supported me. So I did occasionally, with the cover design, there were some things that I kind of ran up against that I was butting my head against, but she always supported me on that, actually. So that was an amazing experience. I'm not going to name houses, editors, or experiences instances where that actually was not the case, however. So it can be, it can be a wonderful thing and it can be not so much. I have.
It sounds like you have more creative control with your stories now with your current team. So it sounds like it's a better fit for you.
Yeah. That's it. With my first books, and unfortunately it was all right because the cover was good. But with Between, one day the cover just came into my inbox. Here's your new cover. Hope you like it. It's like, okay, cool. Fortunately, I did, right? but that other times people are not so lucky, and get things that are not so good and they're stuck with it. So
we got a comment down here from Kristen Marie. I don't know if we popped it up yet. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see very well.
Kristen Marie says, I do love cozy mysteries and I'd love more Maureen.
I love Maureen. Maureen is, by the way, this is Kerry Schafer books in the Shadow Valley Manor Mysteries. Maureen was really fun to write because at the time I wrote her, which was quite a while ago, she was turning 60, which is me now, by the way. She's much younger than I had thought at the time when I started writing her, but she's turning 60. She's been wounded on the job. She's a veteran paranormal investigator. The secret FBI unit that she worked for doesn't want her anymore because of her age and her injury, and she goes undercover in an upscale retirement community where she thinks she's going to be really horribly bored, but things are not what they seem at Shadow Valley Manor.
I mean, honestly, you start out with putting us with a dead lady right off the bat. You're like, let's just jump into this. Here's a dead body, and it's like, okay,
well, that's almost fun. So the thing about Maureen, she's not like any of my women's fiction characters. She's very outspoken. She knows exactly who she is. She is reached a point in her life where basically she's not going to put up with anything from anybody, and she really doesn't care what you think about her. And I loved that. It allowed me to actually say things out loud that I might have thought over the years, or to be a certain way with people that I wished that I'd been strong enough to be, because she really just doesn't she doesn't care what you might think of her. And that's really fun to write. Refreshing.
Oh, well, we have a pause for a second. I do want to remind people as to why we're here. If you guys, if whoever's in the background could play the little thank you, Willow.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says Donate Here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
Thank you.
Kristen had up the total so far. Kristen, if you can hold that up again, $850 so far donated to this event and the fundraiser. Thank you very much, everyone who donated.
Well, thank you guys for doing this. All of this, I know it's fun, but it's also time consuming and gets exhausting. I know.
Yes, like several of us do several panels a day, so we're sitting in front of a computer and just talking to people, and it's like you said, it is fun. But oh my goodness, I had 2 panels in a row, and I was like, oh, I'm currently pregnant, so I was like, I've had to pee for the last 2 hours.
Help out wherever I can too. Like I was in between jobs the last couple months, so I'm able to put myself in the role of moderating and all that. So it's just like, okay, I'm free. I'm able to do this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I have done interviewing. I work with authors on the air, and so I've done interviews for them. I had my own podcast for a while. I got busy and I let it go. So I know it's, you got to do your homework. You got to be kind of on. Anyway, I appreciate what you're doing.
I'm actually very glad that we get to talk to you because, as a book nerd, anybody that writes books for to me is just, I'm like, yes, tell me all about the books. Like, I need all the information. I know it's hard to also, when people sit there and ask me about my books, first of all, it's hard to talk about your books in general, but you also don't want to give away too much to the point where they don't, you wanted to give away just enough to where they're like, hey, I want to read this. You don't want to sit there and be like, hey, this is it from the beginning to the end.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, okay, well, thank you. I don't have to read it now. So it's a little bit of you kind of got to play the game there of how much is too much and not enough. But that being said,
that's a skill, I think, that it takes time. I still remember my very first interview. First off, I was terrified. Oh my God. And the first time you see yourself on camera on Zoom or something, it's really, really disturbing. Actually.
But see, here's my thing is just don't wear your glasses and then you can't tell, oh dear sweet Jesus. Yeah, no. Just don't wear your glasses and you'll be fine. Then you can't see yourself on screen.
Well, there you go. And then you run into, having to read something and you're totally screwed. So
I know if every once in a while you'll see me sitting there going like this, that's because I'm reading comments, because I can't see them.
And then there's me. I'm supposed to be wearing reading glasses whenever I'm at a computer, but I'm not. I don't even know where they are right now.
Wow. Okay, well,
that's okay. I can see without them.
You
it's
don't
fine.
need them that badly then. That's all good. So
we just got a good comment from Stephen Fisher. It says, my wife Rebecca would like Kerry to describe her writing process.
Okay. Wow. So my writing process is kind of messy, really. Again, I am a big believer in just kind of diving in. When left to my own devices, I'm pretty much a pantser. If you don't know what that is, that
I
means
am 100% pantser.
Yay! High five! Solidarity. Yeah, I used to be 100% pantser when I started, and then I realized that there was some benefit to knowing something about plot. So here's my thing. I usually start with the seed of an idea and a character. So the two things have to kind of come together. So I have an idea of something I want to write about, and then I need a character that's going to help me tell that story. I sit down and I start writing. Usually the character just starts talking and the voice comes, and that's awesome. And then I have a process that I go through that I got from, oh great, I'm not going to be able to think of his name right now and give him credit. So, oh dear, it'll come up. James Scott Bell has his signpost scenes that I went to a training way back, actually before Between was published, and I credit him for getting me published. I had revised that book a gazillion times. I went to his 2-day seminar, I went home, revised it again, and I got it, and it finally got published. So that was when plot started to make sense to me, and he has a system that works for me as a pantser, because it's just basically, there are these scenes that need to be in the book, and they need to be at approximately these places in the timeline. And so I know I need to start here, and then I need to watch for, the moment of no return is the first big scene where my character makes a decision or is pushed into a place where there's no going back. So that has to happen, whatever that means. So I know I'm looking for that. And then I know about the middle of the book, I'm going to need something big to happen. And then I know towards the end, I'm going to have another no going back scene that pushes my character into the the final conflict. So as I write, things are just coming to me. I like it best when I just sit down and I start writing and I think, well, what would my character do here in this situation? And so I start writing, and then there's another character. Well, what would that character do? And it's really fun if you play them against each other because they want different things. And then that grows into something else. And then something will come up that it's like, oh my God, I had no idea this was coming. What does it even mean? But I'll go ahead and put it in, and then it turns into something. And we just keep growing in that way, because again, I feel the story knows things that I don't know. Usually somewhere about 3/4 of the way through the book, I have to go all the way back to the beginning and start over, because I know a whole bunch of stuff now that I didn't know back then. And by starting over, I just mean revising, writing things in. But things happen. So for example, Other People's Things, try to imagine that book, you read it, without Hawk. Hawk did not exist in that manuscript until 3/4 of the way through. If you can,
I couldn't imagine that book.
I know, right? Because the book didn't tell me about him. So I'm stuck at about 3/4 of the way through. I'm in the shower where my muse lives, and we're having a little communion time in the shower. And all of a sudden, Hawk shows up. It's like, hello, I'm Hawk. I'm a rather large, unconventionally handsome man. I'm a private investigator, and I'm here to solve all your problems. And I said, well, hello, come on in. Let's do this thing.
Welcome to the party.
Welcome to the party. So I went back to the beginning and wrote him in, and that was what made the book, right? So these kinds of things happen with... see, I'm having trouble remembering my own titles now. Oh, A Borrowed Life. With A Borrowed Life, I thought it was just going to be fun. I thought, honestly, when I got the idea, I was going to write a little lighthearted, kind of fun book about a woman experiencing life on her own, when she's older. And I had no idea that I was going to end up writing about some things, really hard things, actually, that are somewhat autobiographical for me. So it ended up being about a character leaving a religion that she had grown up in. It was very harsh, about being widowed, something also that happened to me, both of those things actually. So I got into the book and I was like, oh my God, if you told me this, I would not have written this book, right? So I feel that the writing process, mine, is a little sneaky. I don't know if I'm answering the question the way you wanted it, but that's okay.
Well, that's really interesting, because like I tend to write very similar ways, and apparently Kristen is a pantser too. So it's funny. Like I'll be trying to come up with conversations for my book, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it'll just be like. The conversation will be happening in my head as I'm like cooking dinner. It's like, wait, right. I'm not at my computer yet.
Right. That happens to me when I am in the shower, mowing the lawn, driving. Those are the times I usually get the best book ideas.
Inconvenient times too.
Well, especially you have to understand our lawnmower. If I stop for more than like 2 minutes, it won't start again for half an hour. It's really temperamental. So it's like, can I hold this in my head long enough to actually finish here? Or,
That is a good point, because I don't think people realize how easily fleeting ideas can be, because I'll sit there and I'll be like, oh, I've got this idea. And by the time I get the chance to sit down, I'm like, I remember it was about a duck. I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a donkey. I don't know. So yes.
Yeah.
We actually are getting a lot of good comments in the comment section. If I can see them correctly. I may be reading them correctly.
All right. And Kristen is asking, what other authors do you read?
Oh man, so many authors. So right now, let's see, recently, and then I can't remember the names. So I'm of an age where everything falls out of my head. So forgive me if I struggle here. I am Maddie Dawson in women's fiction. I absolutely adore her books. She brings the magic in, and romance and fun. Love her very much. I absolutely adore. Gosh, what's her name? I just finished reading the Chief Inspector Gamache series. I started Penny is her last name, the author. I'll think of Louise Penny. I started with book 1. It was free in Amazon Prime Reads, and then there's 18 books in the series. None of them were discounted either, and I read them all like in order. Finished one, got another. They were fantastic. I'm reading a Charlie Homburg mystery or a fantasy right now. She's always fun. What else is really talking to me right now? I don't know. I was just talking to someone else about, I adored The House in the Cerulean Sea. It's one of my favorite books that I've read in a really long time. I don't know. Those are some. There are more. I'm probably forgetting some of my favorite people right now. I'm sorry.
Is there a particular author that has inspired your writing? Or I'm sure a bunch of writers, but authors, but
interestingly enough, that goes way back. So first up, I don't know, somewhere around 7th grade, probably, I got into Victorian literature, and weirdly enough, I've got to put Charles Dickens in here. He was my guy. I read all of his books like in order, except for Edwin Drood. I have not read Edwin Drood because he didn't finish it, and I don't want to know. So I started with Dickens. Fantasy. Then I have to put C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and actually Madeleine L'Engle in there. Madeleine L'Engle, probably, I was just thinking about this the other day, probably a lot actually, because she writes this thing that I love, which is people in the real world with some sort of magical, mystical element going on. So even though those books were tended to be young adult, and I don't write young adult, that really was something that stayed with me, I think, for a long time as something that I wanted to capture. I don't know. After those really formative years when I was young, I just wanted to write my own stuff, and I tend not to feel like anybody else is shaping what I'm doing all that much anymore. I hope. I try to avoid that, actually.
We've got some. There's like a million questions I want to ask you, but there's also another million questions that people keep asking in the comment section. So I'm torn, but we've got another good question.
Are you in any writers associations, and what are the benefits of such groups?
I am, and there are benefits. I tend not to really take advantage of them. I'm totally an introvert girl, to be honest. And I also don't like, I'm going back to the pokey little puppy who broke all the rules. I don't like organizations and rules very much. And so although those things are out there and I am part of them, I tend to have my own little group of people that I like to hang out with, and that's my favorite thing. I have my own readers. I have my go-to cheer me up, I'm really down, or I'm blocked people. That said, I am a member of the Women's Fiction Writers Association. They do some wonderful trainings. They have a fabulous writers retreat conference that I've been to a number of times. It's nice to have that kind of support. I belong to the Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers. I try to go to their conference every year. I like the resources that they offer. I belong to some other organizations, but those are the ones probably that I make the most use of. Like I said, I'm a bit of a rebel when it comes to that stuff, and I find that when something comes up that looks fun and it would be good to be part of, I'm busy writing or off in another place, and I just don't want to commit to anything.
We have one more question here, and then we kind of gotta unfortunately wrap it up a little bit because there's